between here and Anchorage with my kids. So I just have to stop and think when I get ready to send a text message, or email or something. You know, I have to stop and think, okay, this is gonna hit their phones at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Whatever, and I don't want it to ping on them, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Leave her on this with it.
We'll go ahead and go on time.
Everybody turn the microphones on.
Yeah, right. Please turn mics on. We have Mary Martha pointing virtually, so microphones will be important.
And Bill Young's virtually
Oh,
too.
also, okay.
Yep.
So, okay, good afternoon, everybody. We will call our August board meeting of the Butler Community College Board of Trustees to order, and we'll start with our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the agenda, as we can see, Mary Martha's not here. She is home, has some scheduling issues. So what I would propose that we do is move the action items, move anything that ends up in the action item category on the agenda and move them up to immediately following public comment. So if we want to, does anybody have any, I think probably the most expeditious way to do it, does anybody have anything to change out of the consent agenda or otherwise amend that would impact the action items?
Yeah, a couple.
Okay, why don't we?
I would
address those
move
first?
to move item D to the esports from consent agenda to board action items. I just want to talk about it a little bit.
A second.
So that would be new, proposed would be new 9 or the new E as an echo. Any discussion about that now or?
No, I just want to know kind of what the room is like, and we never talked about the video game rooms at all before. I just read about it. So I'm just curious how they are.
Something else, what I like to try with virtual and sometimes connectivity issues, we're going to change the order of the voting around. I'll start. If someone has a problem and they'd like to start, somebody else can start. It's not just about me. But with the one person appearing virtual, sometimes being the first one to vote
Okay.
and not knowing connectivity, it didn't make sense to me to have
Well, yeah.
that be the start of the vote. So
Yeah.
if no one objects, we'll start with me and then we'll go clockwise like we've done before.
Well, I would think that you would want to reverse it instead of starting in the middle, but it's up to you. Forrest,
Would
what
you rather
wanna
start
do.
somewhere else?
I think I'd rather start with Shelby, yes, if Shelby has no objection.
Well, because then you're putting the person that's virtual second in line instead of first in line. I don't know that that really addresses the
No.
issue.
No.
I think
It does,
she's
but
just
it
saying go
doesn't include the
counterclockwise.
person.
You can go
Doesn't
the other
include the person
direction.
And on.
Yeah,
That's fine. We can start with me and move to Linda and then Kim. That's
That's
fine. For today, we can do it.
Can we just call it what it is, a zigzag, so Mary knows how to vote? I mean,
No, she has said before that it's hard to hear.
and she'd love to know how Forrest votes before she
Oh,
votes.
please.
Okay,
yeah, I think that's pretty much right.
I'm sorry, I
That discredits Mary Martha and her ability to
Well,
think
then
on her
let's just
own.
start with Shelby and that go around this way of the table instead
ahead.
of that
Start
way
with
of the
Shelby.
table.
Because
So
if-
Okay, well, that's fine.
But
Well, that's
honestly,
fine. We'll
she
start with
has-
Shelby and we'll go counterclockwise.
if she has a question with
just-
regard to what the vote is, or the question is, then she could ask for clarification before the voting. Because I can't read someone else's mind across the room so that I know what to vote. I'm always second. I don't really know. Just saying, she could ask for clarification.
Sorry, Shelby.
We'll start with
Well,
Shelby and
I
work
got a
this way.
quick question. the president here. Isn't there a way that you can pass a vote along? There's some way in Robert's rules, I think you can say,
Like a proxy?
move on and then come back to the person that didn't want to. Yeah, there is a way.
There,
I'm sure there
I am not
is.
familiar enough with Robert's rules to know that intricacy. If
Let's
you're,
just
if you
vote.
find that out, I mean, we've had votes changed in the past. The idea isn't to play gotcha. The idea is for each person to understand what they're voting on and to vote one way or
And I
the
think
other.
the fair way bit would be just to, I mean, you can- like I said, vote whatever order you want, but I would think that she could say, can I get clarification of what we're voting on? If you're zoomed in and you don't understand what you're voting on.
I would agree with that.
We
I
will
think we
start,
should take a vote.
we
on
will
it.
start with Shelby and we will work counterclockwise as Julie suggested.
Do you want to vote on it?
And it's not a votable issue.
Why is that? Ready?
Yes.
There-
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee. Sure.
And what we're voting on right now, to be clear, we're voting on to move item 10D2, the esports recommendation, out of the consent agenda and onto a separate action item. Dave,
Trustee Sher,
Oh, sorry. Yes,
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes.
yes,
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes,
trustee Good.
Yes.
And my second motion, I want to move consent agenda item 10D3 to board action items, the Butler Service lease agreement.
and we'll. So
Probably
propose,
a big discussion about it. It's gonna. Not sure we need to be there, and we've talked about it a whole bunch over the last 3 years.
okay,
I'll second that.
any other discussion?
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee Sher,
yes,
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes.
Yes,
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
yes,
trustee Good.
No.
so I didn't note this for the record, the first amendment passes 7-0, the second one passes 6-1. Any other amendments to the consent agenda? If not, I would propose a motion to move the now amended board action items to immediately follow the public comment portion of our agenda today.
I'll second that.
Do we have a motion?
I would move to move board action items to item 6.
Okay,
And consent agenda too. I mean, to those together.
Oh,
or-
that's fine. Items, yeah, item
I
9.
think
and
that's
Yeah,
10
no,
what you
yeah,
proposed.
yeah.
Is that what you
Items
proposed?
6 and 7 or whatever they need to be.
Dave, do you second that?
I will second that.
Okay, any other discussion about that?
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee Sher,
Yes,
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes.
Yes,
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
yes,
trustee Good.
No.
that also passes 6-1. So would now, unless there's other amendments, would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as we have amended it.
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee Sher,
Yes,
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes,
trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
yes.
trustee Good.
Yes.
okay, thanks, everybody. That passes 7-0. We will move on then to recognitions.
Thanks. I don't see any of our students here tonight, but we did point out in your board book a couple of individuals. First of all, Brooklyn Hunter, who is an outstanding soccer player. She was named the the Greater Wichita Area Junior College Female Athlete of the Year. She's actually Coach Adam Hunter's daughter, and has played, a lot of those girls have played together, soccer together since the time that they were really little. Adam's really busy and connected in the Wichita area with the soccer leagues there. And so this is a great honor for Brooklyn. And so we wanted to recognize her. Also wanted to recognize Isaac Tiger, outstanding pitcher, who was selected in the 7th round of the Major League Baseball draft by the Texas Rangers. So that's really fun to see those accomplishments and to see his success. Caden Kickhopper was named the Rawlings and ABCA Gold Glove Award recipient. And then Nazio John was named the Central Region Track Athlete of the Year. So it's exciting to be able to celebrate the successes of those students and be able to recognize them. We'll get their certificates sent on to them. And then also in your board book, we just received the list within the last month after the last board meeting. You'll see in there all of the 55 student athletes who were named NJCAA Academic All-Americans because they had GPAs of 3.5 or higher. Typically during the basketball season, I guess it's usually in the spring that we do it, we will recognize all the student athletes that have 3.5 or higher and literally fill the basketball floor. We've got some really outstanding student athletes. And so it's fun to recognize them. And this honor with the NJCAA is obviously very significant. So just wanted to point those folks out to you and be able, even though they're not here, to congratulate them and tell them great job. So
Yep.
Coaches, obviously the coaches have a lot to do with that because they have required study halls and coaches are doing room checks to make sure that they're in their classes and all those kinds of things. So there's good leadership on the coaching end as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kroll.
Mhm.
Move on to public comment. I think we have at least one person here for public comment, so I will read our ground rules for public comment. The general public is welcome to address the Board of Trustees under the public comment section of the regular board meeting agenda. Public comment should be germane to the business and activities of the Board of Trustees. Personnel issues are prohibited from public comment. The board chairperson will ask visitors wishing to make brief comments to identify themselves and the topic they wish to address. If several members of one group or organization wish to speak to the board concerning the same item, the board chair may ask the group to identify a single spokesperson. A time limit of 5 minutes has been set for each recognized member or spokesperson of the audience to speak to the board. The board will take no action during the public comment period of the board meetings. However, it will take the matter under deliberation and, if appropriate, direct the president to follow up with a written response and report at the next regular board meeting. With that, do we have anyone that would like to make public comment? Oh, please come on up to the podium if you would.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Evan Funk, and I am the current chairman of the Butler Community College Foundation's Board of Directors. I'm here today to show support the partnership between the foundation and Butler Community College, as well as reminding the board of its unique relationship with the college. Founded in 1967, Foundation was created to support the mission of the college. And as a young, struggling endowment association, the college paid for the salaries of its staff. As the foundation grew, so did the support it generated for the college. In 2009, the foundation contemplated whether to operate separately from the college or to build on its partnership. It was agreed that the college and the foundation benefited more by sharing expenses to maximize the return for students, programs, and capital projects. The college has experienced exceptional growth due in large part to the dedication of the foundation, staff, volunteers, and its donors. It is through the foundation's relationships, advocacy for the college, and strategic thinking that new and exciting opportunities are consistently developed. The Butler Community College Foundation is the model and leader among the Kansas Community College Foundations. The current foundation team brings years of experience and respect to the community. It has the admiration of its colleagues at peer institutions and provides mentorship support to other community college foundations. As a donor to the college and a close friend and colleague of other significant donors, I am acutely aware of the role philanthropy plays in the future of our college. I encourage the board to continue to partner with the foundation to create success for our students, our faculty, and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to the moved to the board action items that we've now moved on our agenda. The first one being the notice of public hearing, which in your board book is on page 17. Would entertain a motion to approve the recommended action as set forth on page 17.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the notice of hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate and budget hearing as attached with the maximum amount of expenditures at $89,778,720 and a maximum amount of tax to be levied of $12,928,138.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I think and just to clarify, we've talked about this before. This represents the $12,928,138 is the same amount of money that we actually levied last year. So it does not reflect taking any of the increases in valuation. So it's revenue neutral in a practical sense, although it doesn't meet the strict definition of revenue neutral from the state standard.
I just had a couple questions. I mean, when the budget comes, I'm gonna vote for tax increase, which would render this unnecessary because it would come underneath that amount. I did have a couple questions on our advertising budget went up last year, $420,000. Did that sunset? Is it, or is it,
Still part of the budget.
so is it an additional 420 again this year on top of what it was previous?
The 420 last year was added to the base, so it's the same amount this year.
So we had the previous year's base, and then we added $350,000 to that base, plus $70,000 for an employee, and that's currently going to be this year's budget as well. An additional, it'd be an additional 420 over what it was two budgets
I
ago.
believe that's true.
I looked through the thing, but I didn't really see it in the budget.
On page OB7, you have in the report, shows the addition this year, last year's budget. I don't see any increases this year for nothing.
My specific question is the marketing budget going to go back to what it was 2 years ago?
No, it's what was added last year for the FY23 budget became part of the base. That is the FY24 budget for marketing.
So it's ongoing each year.
Right. And we still haven't been told what the results were of the additional 420.
Well, let me speak. Kelly has a presentation that she's putting together that she'll give you at the August work session.
Okay, I'm just pointing out the fact that that's another place we could cut and not have to exceed revenue neutral. And also after spending that 420, our budgeted credit hours are still dropping 3.3% or whatever it was. I mean, we haven't budgeted more credit hours after spending nearly $500,000. We're still planning on the same decline as we have been the previous year, even after spending the money. And then let's spend that money again this year with no upticks. So
It seems to expect an instantaneous dollar for dollar return on marketing
Just
like that,
advertising.
I think is on advertising, I think is unrealistic. You've pressured the board and pressured administration for the last couple of years that we budgeted flat hours when we should have been budgeting to expect that there would be some decrease, because that's what we've seen in the past.
right.
We now have they're budgeting a decrease, and now you're critical that we're still budgeting.
That's
a decrease.
precisely my point. We spent $500,000, and then what we expect to happen is to still lose students after spending that much money. I would expect if you truly thought you were gaining students, you would budget flat or an increased rate. You're just saying, we know we spent $420,000. We don't expect additional increase in enrollment, even though we spent the money, and then we want the money again this year.
So how do we post that?
Well,
to-
remember that these are estimates. There, we put this in front of you as an estimated budget. I mean, really, we won't know our enrollment until the 20th day. And we've talked to you lots of times before that it's not just advertising dollars that impact enrollment. There's all kinds of things that are integrated into it. So to identify that just advertising and the additional expenses that we have put into advertising should have, like Forrest said, a one-to-one impact on enrollment that's not accurate. That thinking is not accurate at all.
No information of any kind. What would happen if we hadn't have spent it? No information, no data. And give me another 420 this year because we want it. I think that's another expense we don't need to pay. So I'm going to vote no on the revenue neutral because right there between the foundation and that is $750,000 we don't need to spend next year, in my opinion.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I just want to comment, make sure I'm clear on this, but if we leave the revenue neutral rate, we actually don't pass this, then the amount of taxes collected would need to decrease by $100,000 to $200,000. Is that correct?
174,000.
Okay, so I just ran quick math based on 150,000 because I wasn't sure what the actual number was based on our $52 million budget. That's 0.003% of the total budget would have to change. It just seems like a lot of extra work for the county. It just expense and riling people up for 0.003%. That's when we got public comment last year on don't raise our taxes, don't do this, because this gives us the ability to, whether or not we're saying we will or won't. So for such a nominal amount of money, I think it raises a lot of issues for just a small amount. That's my opinion.
Our policy currently is to keep 10.5% surplus, so $5 million. And we're gonna get close to 20% of that. So we're gonna have another $4 million additional that's not budgeted, not being spent, just extra. We could easily do without it, just for the home mess.
We can call the vote. It's fine. That's why I'll be voting now.
Hearing no other comment?
Well, my concern is the same as Kim's. There's such a very low amount of money that we're increasing it, and we spend so many hours redoing these budgets. And then, of course, there's a hearing, and it does cost about $8,000 to put those notices out. Now, I understand this is the last year that the state will have that amount. So maybe we'll only be out 4,000, but bottom line is for that kind of money, it just seems like a stab. We could really build up our relationship with the taxpayers by saying, you know what, we'll find that 174,000. So that was my comment. Thank you for letting me make it.
I would just note the postcard, the college doesn't bear the expense of notice. That's borne by the county, and those postcards are going out whether our name's on them or not. They're going to note the other taxing entities in the county.
Well,
So-
we all pay taxes.
No, I
It doesn't
understand,
matter.
but you're not
doesn't-
saving, you're not saving that money by our name not being on them, because the county is still going to have to send those out unless we happen to be the only taxing entity that was not revenue neutral, which I can't speak for certain, but I extremely find that doubtful.
We might be the only one in this, in certain areas, but at any rate, for that kind of money, it just seems like, we could really do some positive steps with the taxpayers if we said, you know what, we can live without that. We know enrollment's down 25%, whatever, and we get that. So, but you guys have a majority, so let's go vote.
I think we've been very clear that we're not taking any more money this year than we took last year. Which is.
I know you want to keep saying that, but
It's true.
For the last 4 years. It's for the last 4 years.
okay,
Okay, but
I understand what you're saying. You don't have to rebut everything I say. That gentleman got up there. I disagreed with a lot of things he said, but I didn't get up and rebut it. So I don't want you to rebut everything I say, Shores, just let me have my turn. Those are my comments, and let's go to vote.
Trustee Smith.
I restate the
Yes.
motion.
Sorry.
Do we, the motion is to, Linda, you have.
Oh,
I have a couple of comments that I was thinking about earlier. So we're once again passing a deficit budget, spending down into our reserve, which is something you've asked for, Shelby. Keep in mind, this budget came to us from staff. We didn't ask them to make the cuts internally. They figured out what they felt was most important and gave us a budget, that was the same dollars as last year. We also don't know that the base amount of money we're going to get from the state will remain the same. We won't be getting the 1.4 million in apprenticeship money the following year or the deferred maintenance in 2024. I've asked this from my first day here, although I don't talk about things every time, but I want us to have a sustainability plan. We keep just doing these things and then proposing a cut, increased tuition. And yet we've never done had an overall discussion about, hey, we'd like to come to this end, whether we all agree on it or not. And what are some of the ideas of things we could do besides what we seem to be doing now? Inflation, we continue to ignore inflation. Nobody can buy the loaf of bread from the same amount that they did 6 or 7 years ago. I've told you how I feel about the increased tax base. I think that's a benefit. I see other taxing entities not only taking the increase in valuation, not that we have to follow them, but they increase their mill levy too. And you can see that over, the last 8 years, we've seen a real reduction in our mill levies. So as I said, we have no guarantee that state funding will continue at the base that we received last year. And I guess my other thought is that I would like for us to be a little more fiscally responsible and talk about sustainability instead of just taking shots in the dark at different things, reductions and things that we want to do. It'd be nice if it was a comprehensive discussion overall and we weren't coming to the meetings fighting over little dollars here, there, or big dollars or programs or anything else. So those are my comments.
I'd just like to respond real quick. In the same breath, we're gonna pay $300,000 of the wages to the foundation every year, which is an expense we could do without. And you as a board approved $420,000 of additional advertising expenses last year with no proof of it even working at all. And we're gonna approve an additional 420 this year. And that's one spot we don't have to pay extra money, and that would be a cut we could make that hasn't been justified as an expense.
Part of those monies were salaries. When we allowed them to have additional employees, you're just going to hire somebody for 1 year and cut them. The other thing is marketing doesn't have the impact absolute immediately. We haven't even heard the report of what they're doing. I would hope that if they've had, and I've said this, if you did something, you didn't see the results that you thought you should see, change. But to now say nothing they did worked, I don't think until we see some of the initiatives that they've utilized and what they find their reporting to be based on those, we might see a lot more direct impact from things and some other force that's lowering the tuition, because we see it happening at all the colleges.
We have an advertising budget previous. We didn't cut that budget. We added an additional 350 plus hiring someone for 70,000 with no change in our enrollment. And then we're presented, we ask questions, what's happening? How do we get students? And we're just told technology funnel, and we'll send them emails. There's nothing.
That's an oversimplification of what we were told.
What I've heard for 3.5 years is technology funnel, but never. And yeah, you can say there's a decline overall, but out of all the state colleges, all the technical colleges, all the community colleges, Butler was the worst performer in 5 years. And we're still spending additional money. So it's not just, there's a decline overall, and what are we going to do?
We're the worst performer and we've cut budget. We can't be the worst performer cutting budgets.
No, at K-More, we were the worst performance in losing students over the past 5 years.
And you voted for an increase of tuition over and above what the staff recommended.
Yes. This is a 5-year average.
So
I've been here 4 years.
I'm waiting for those numbers to see what great of a decision that was at helping us.
I also cut local taxes, local tuition. We did as a board as a whole. Cut them down to $100. We'll see if local Butler County students increase. 'Cause we don't get that many Butler County kids coming to our local college as we should.
The only other thing I'll say, I actually agree with Linda wholeheartedly, but the broad approach needs to have the ability or the idea of both adding and subtracting in terms of budget where it applies, instead of all cutting or all adding. And because they're like you're saying, there's no comprehensive plan going forward, and I would absolutely support that.
That's why we have a staff. We approve the budget. They let them work the budget.
Board
I understand where
our
the,
job.
We're like, one
To
at a time,
take,
one at a time.
to take the whole system that we're looking at and guide it in the right direction. It's not our job as the board to just rubber stamp what the staff brings to us. Yes, we respect our staff. We know they work hard, but it's not our job just to say, oh, staff, that's what you want. Okay, because otherwise we serve no purpose.
Right.
well, in some cases, I disagree with you.
I don't, the overall sustainability.
I would
plan
like to
can't
see
be
us
done
grow.
By just us. I
Right.
mean, we have to have the input. We have to
Exactly.
be working as a team if we're gonna figure this out long term. That's why it's hard for me to have one thing come forward and for or against, it's hard.
Yeah, because you don't understand the big picture.
You don't understand the big picture, so.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's what I'm trying to point out, I guess, in a too gruff a fashion. It's like you had asked for an additional 420. Show me black and white what happened. No, we won't. Not till it's too late. And then we're gonna ask for it again. Like, well.
It's
if you have
not, there's
black
not
and
a
white
finish
data,
line to say it's too early or too late. It's a work in process. Now, maybe you might
It's
have liked
been a
it.
year, and as of December, when Julie asked, hey, what have we done with the additional 420,000? Well, we don't really have a plan yet, is what we were told in December.
I think
So-
Kelly presented information to you at a work session or a board meeting earlier this spring. She's bringing back some of that same information in August with additional information. So she did present information
No,
to you,
even-
all of you,
Even
and you
Linda
had an opportunity to ask questions and seek more information at
was
that
very
time.
General without specifics, and even Linda last month said, hey, it would be nice to know what happened with the money. We spent extra, show us the results. It would be nice to know what our return on that investment is. Is it an investment?
It seems to me to be a bit disingenuous to be critical of the college for years about declining enrollment and what are you doing about it? They propose some additional money focused on marketing to try to address that. And when you don't get instantaneous results, all of a sudden your view is that money was wasted and we should yank it off the table. I don't know how you think that promotes increasing or cutting the decrease in enrollment that we've been facing. It's more than a 1-year process to figure that out.
But you
Mr.
can't just
President,
ask,
Wait,
I mean, after
wait.
a 2-year process, then we're $1 million into it. And then maybe we'll, oh, it's only been 2 years. Now we need 3 years of $1.3 million. And then after 3 years, it'll be like, oh, we didn't really gain anything. Like I was talking with Kim Brungard the other day, her son runs the jump pad or the flip pad. We could literally take a student, say, you come to Butler, you're gonna save $6,000 over your 2 years. Here's $6,000 cash. Throw it on a trampoline. He's got millions of viewers. Show the kid bouncing on the trampoline, slow motion. Butler saves tons of money. He'll flip for Butler. He could do a commercial. He doesn't charge that much, under 20 grand. That would cost $20,000 to get worldwide millions of eyeball views. Or we could light $420,000 on fire and film that, and that would get millions of views. And I would know what happened with the 420. It's just,
We've got a
You can't-
motion that's,
yeah.
we've had a lot of discussion on this. Does anybody have anything else?
Yes, I had something else I've been trying to put in. Get my stuff said, but although I can really appreciate us coming together, and I think we should try to come together as a board and decide some of these things. What bothers me is I understand this is an academic world, this is not a business world, but perhaps that's the problem. Because when business downscales and business loses customers and business loses customer base, they have to make cuts somewhere. And we don't ever get any information on what kind of decreases that we can make. we need to know what programs are doing really well, so we leave those alone, and the ones that aren't doing so well, we need to think about doing something different, but we don't need to attack each other over this. I mean, this is just plain common sense. If you have an area in the college that's not doing well, let's either do something about it, cut it, like we did kinder care or whatever that
I
was.
think we've heard from.
Excuse me, I'm not finished. And we have to get to the point where we get along well enough to be able to converse as a board and make suggestions. I mean, we are the governing board. We were elected to do this job. And yes, we do appreciate the college bringing us information and referrals and information on how we can do things. But bottom line is we're losing a lot of enrollment and we're not getting anywhere arguing. And we're not very accepting. I don't feel that the administration very accepting of any of our ideas as a board. I just don't. Now, that's just me, I'm sure, but I don't feel like they're very accepting. Now, whenever I get somebody from an area like facilities or marketing or whatever, and they got a big plan, I want to see numbers. And more of all, I want to see a plan. I don't want to see a marketing plan. I want to see a business type plan. This is what we're going to spend it on. This is how we're going to spend it. And this is why we're going to spend it, because we're going to meet whatever some big outfit said is going to be where our people are and where we need to advertise. But we don't really get that. We don't really get a plan. We just get pretty much garbaged.
I don't know. We
What's
get a
gonna
plan. I hear it, because I heard Dr. Neville tell all of us how he has shifted teachers and instructors in areas that are decreasing enrollment to areas of increasing enrollment. To me, that's making shifts to fit the needs of the school and the academic.
Wait, please, wait and let him finish, please. You just made a point of criticizing those that
Yes,
didn't
would you
with you.
please finish so I can do mine too?
Well, I know it's in the world of academia, but he's not hiring instructors that are in areas that may not have that grade of a student base. I mean, you also want them to want students to be able to maybe finish out an academic area so that they could take that and move on to a four-year institution. I'm real interested to see how your model works at Emporia State University, because right now they're expecting a multi-million-dollar loss, and I think it's going to be even greater, but I'm ready to vote.
Okay, well, my point being that I just think we ought to try harder to work together. I think we ought to share more ideas. And I don't think just because Shelby has an idea or Julie has an idea or Kim Rungard has an idea, we should immediately, I guess, rebut so that we can protect the college, because the bottom line is the college needs some help or we wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be suggesting these things. So maybe someday we can have that happen.
Call the vote.
Trustee Smith,
No.
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
No.
trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
No.
trustee Good.
Yes.
That passes 4-3. We will move on. Next page in the board book is the electrical upgrade at the El Dorado Correctional Facility. And who's the
Well, I'm going to turn that over to either Heather or Tom. Heather? Okay. So let me just say to you, Heather, because you probably don't know, when I emailed my update to you folks, I gave you some additional information about, some of the situation out at EDCF and the electrical needs out there, kind of indicating, again, I gave you a little bit of information about the enrollment out there, that this has become a really last minute decision. And the concerns that if we don't do the electrical upgrades, there's $270,000 worth of equipment that corrections and EDCF have purchased that are just sitting that can't be used. And their expectation is that we continue to build out construction technology and even future programs. So Heather,
Sure.
explain
Yeah.
some more about what this situation
So our
is.
partnership with EDCF is a twofold. So we have a contract for services. Through that contract for services over the last 2 years, the Kansas Department of Corrections has given us $834,000 a little bit over that actually, which funds 6 full-time positions, 1 part-time position. They've bought equipment, they pay for supplies, we pay 0 lease utilities, none of that. And so that's the contract for services. Within that, we have to meet certain outcomes that are career and technical education based. So the construction is fulfilling the outcomes that we have to meet there. The 270,000 in equipment was in addition to what they give us through the contract for services. We submitted a proposal. They requested that construction technology program. We said, great, but it costs money. They gave us $270,000 in equipment and a brand new building, not brand new. It's a vacant building that they gave to us to use there. It used to be used for the residents to live in. It was a cell house. So when they stripped that, they stripped the electrical from that building. So we were not aware until about a week ago that we had to fund that. That's why I didn't bring it to you earlier. I certainly would have had I known. So in addition to that, just this fall, $464,000 would be what we would get in tuition and fees, state aid for those construction classes alone. That doesn't count the other classes that we're offering. We've been awarded $225,000 in Pell grants for these students. Through the AOK grant, we've had $24,000 just in AY23. Additional equipment and things purchased through Perkins. We have not contributed much from the college's perspective. And so this is, they're asking for this money because we have to have some skin in the game a little bit here. So again, significant enrollment growth for us. We talked about that before when I've presented other things. We overall are down, but we have grown significantly. And this is one of those populations that we've grown significantly. So I would be glad to answer any questions. Yeah, this wouldn't be an addition to the budget. It comes from the academic. Sorry,
Comes from
the
this is a
innovation
little bit
fund.
of a misstatement. It's coming from the academic innovation designated fund. So it's money that was set aside, stimulus dollars that were set aside whenever a year or 2 years ago now, a year ago, I guess. And so it's not actually coming out of the academics general operational budget. It's coming from funds that had been set aside previously,
Right.
that will pay for it. So that wording in there is just a little bit off. So
I have a question for Heather. Is this a good time to ask? We received quite a bit of grant money from the state, maybe, or federal when we started this program. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I just gave to you.
Okay, are we still getting that every year? Or
Yeah. Over the last 2 years, we've had over $800,000 given to us from the
do you
Kansas
expect
Department.
that to last or continue?
That is a contract for services that is in effect now. We have an MOU as well. Those are always up for renewal. So not meeting those outcomes, and we can't meet the CTE outcomes if we don't have electricity to power the tools that are
Well,
sitting
I
in
don't
the
really
building.
have any problem doing that upgrade for you, Heather. I just want to make sure that we can hopefully look forward to some more assistance from that endeavor.
That's a 5-year contract, I believe.
Contract.
We're in the third year of that contract.
Third
is
year,
that correct?
yeah, the start of the third year, and the MOU, which is separate, so we have the contract for services, then we
Right.
have the MOU that allows us to do the other programs that we have available out there. That's also increasing our enrollment. And that MOU is up for renewal in June.
Yeah, and I'd say from an innovation standpoint, the impact of this investment on our behalf will last for many years as we continue to grow our for credit teaching at El Dorado Correctional Facility. They're getting ready to also launch the Wi-Fi and the technology infrastructure with no cost to us. I mean, that's a multi-million-dollar investment by the state. That's an opportunity for our students there to also take online courses. So there's certainly some long-term benefits for the college. And as you heard from some of those dollars that our partners are investing through corrections, through the EDCF itself, and through federal, through our access to Second Chance Pell, soon to be what's PEP?
Prison education program.
Education program, those funds will continue to support that student population. So this is certainly, in terms of an ROI for the college, it's a significant ROI for this investment.
Mr. Chair, are you ready for a motion?
Yeah, would you a motion?
I had a couple questions.
Okay.
Oh, somebody can make, we have a motion yet?
No, go ahead.
No, I would motion to approve the electrical work to be done in the U dorm at EDCF for 71,500.
Okay, we have a motion for that. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion.
So we're doing masonry out there. What are we doing additional to that? What's the extra equipment?
Well, we have the masonry and the construction pathway, which both lead to the same associate's degree, which is also our 2+2 in agreement with Pitt State for the bachelor's
So it's just
program.
general construction?
It's general
Right, so
construction
we
and,
start out
Is
just
there
doing
plumbing,
masonry
HVAC,
only.
Electrical?
well, there's a little bit of that, but that's not the focus of that program. It's not a true trade program.
You said earlier we didn't know about this till a week ago. Is this our first electrical estimate?
I had indicated to them, Heather, that there'd been conversations previously.
Yeah.
We had thought that they were going to pay for
We thought
this
that
and
they were
yeah.
paying for it. Yeah, we weren't aware that we were paying for it. So we had gotten one bid previously, which was part of our proposal. When we submitted the proposal with the list of tools that we would need, we submitted that. The funds that they granted us to, and buying those equipment pieces, they couldn't use those funds for the electrical. So we knew that, but we thought the EDCF was going to cover it. And then found out about a week ago that they were not. And there was only one bid. The purpose for that, I did visit with Ireland Turner today.
I can speak to that. Joshua House worked at the prison for years. He's a master electrician. He knows what he's talking about. He knows the ins and outs of the prison.
But he does, but also you have to have a background check to get there. There's
Right.
several steps that you have to go through. You have to be trained to go out. I mean, there's different things that you have to do. And this is a very last minute project. And so
Okay.
because they are already contracted with the prison, they're already cleared to go in there. So it was a quick.
I can't imagine you get anybody more affordable that knows what they're doing over there
Oh.
than Joshua.
Good. That's good to know.
Any other comment or questions?
Sorry.
Okay, we can go ahead and vote.
Trustee Smith,
Yes,
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Good.
Yes.
Great, that passes 7-0. Heather, thank you. Yep, thanks for bringing that up. Next item, page 22 of the board book, excuse me, is the Fairness in Women's Sports Act. Dr. Kroll, you want to address that?
Yeah, this is, with the passage of the House bill for interscholastic and intercollegiate, intramural and club athletic teams that designate participants based on biological sex. This is wording, policy language and wording that has come out of that that House bill. It doesn't have a statute number yet. It will next year, I believe, but this is essentially the wording that was given to us and that the community colleges are using for this policy. And so I just kind of copied it and pasted it and it covers the language in the House bill that was passed. And so would look for support to approve this in policy, and then we'll get it embedded in our employee handbook. And so,
Did the KSB write this? Can I ask?
I don't know that, well, let me say this. I think that Heather Morgan took the language out of the House bill and she probably ran it past KASB. It's pretty consistent with what it
I would
says.
move the board approve the Fairness in Women's Sports Act as described on page 23.
I would second.
I don't think we need to read all that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah. This is something I would said like a year ago or 2 years ago, we could have maybe stated this as a college and been a leader and like, hey.
Yep.
Others ahead of the game. Instead, seems like we wait until we get approval from the state sometimes to act.
Or we
But-
mandatory?
That's all I have to say.
Trustee Smith,
Oh, yes, sorry.
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Good. I think she's muted.
Oh, Mary Martha, I think you're muted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, and that passes 7-0. We'll move on. Page 24 of the board book is the funding for the foundation. Shelby, you specifically asked if this item be
Yeah,
added.
I was
to
just
the-
gonna make a motion unless we want to talk about it a whole bunch. We, I think we can just make a motion, vote it up or down and drive on if you want to. I would just move that no foundation salaries shall be paid by BCCC.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second. We need to vote on it.
If there's my understanding is there may be some positions that are required to be funded from a conflict of interest standpoint. I would assume that
Yeah.
your motion would exclude anything that is otherwise required to be funded. Or
The
I don't know what-
accounting officer position is required to be funded by the college so that there's a separation, checks and balances. So there's a separation in that. So that position does have to be funded by the college. But what your motion is stating is that you don't want any of the other ones to be funded by the college. Is that
No-
correct?
No foundation salaries other than the accounting officer shall be paid by BCCC.
There you go. That's good. Thanks.
And that's already split, isn't it, Kim?
It's
No, it's
100, no, the college pays that 100% of the accounting officer's position because we're required to.
I think one of the things that we were sent, I don't think it's in here, but it looked like less than half the community colleges actually pay wages for foundation. And then maybe it wasn't like 6. that
Well,
paid.
let
No, I
Tom
think it's the other-
explain that. Let Tom explain that a little bit more because he's got a little bit more information about that split and the staffing in those. Did you get a second on the motion?
Yeah,
before you
well, I
start discussion?
Julie, did
Sorry.
you second the revised motion?
Okay, sorry.
Yes, we have a second.
Okay, so the
Is your
19
microphone on, Tom?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The 19 community colleges, 10 of those community colleges are fully funded by their college. And then 6 of them are a hybrid. And they are anywhere from 30-70 to 40-60 to 50-50. And the numbers are anywhere from 2 to 7, 2 to 6, something in that range. And then you get 3 that are totally funded by the foundation. And those go from 1 to 3 as far as the number of employees. And so at Butler, we have our breakdown of the percentages that are paid, but we also have responsibilities that the foundation takes on from a fundraising perspective, but also from a college perspective. Over time, positions that were once college came over to the foundations because it made sense for it to all be under the foundation. For instance, scholarships used to be managed by the college, private and institutional scholarships. And so because of some challenges there, the foundation was put in charge of that role for private scholarships. We have programs that are managed by some of our foundation people. And other than that, that's primarily the breakdown of our responsibilities. The most interesting thing about kind of the looking at some of this information is the money raised in the last 10 years was a telling sort of impact and return on investment. And so you've had this information in front of you, but the upshot is the college investment in the foundation staff over 10 years has been about $2.6 million. And then the money's raised over that time frame from a brick and mortar and type of perspective is about almost 27 million. And then the scholarships is about 6.7 million for a total of $33,560,000 and $103. So it's the ROI is fairly high. It's about 1,277.3%. And so the impact of the philanthropic dollar on the college is tremendous from a project perspective and also from a student impact perspective. So the investment, I think, is a good investment by the college. It allows us to maximize what we give to the students because of that partnership. And so we feel that the arrangement is a great arrangement. Our foundation board, we've discussed this and they monitor how they can contribute to us. They monitor how they can contribute to the students. They've maximized what they can give to the students, and it's all focused on how can we deliver the biggest impact. And this allows us to do that.
So how much of the 14 or $15 million is endowment that is not
So-
touched?
So the endowment is about 14 million. 14 to 16 million depending upon investments. There's an income that comes off of that then is focused on primarily scholarships. So there's income from the endowments, and then there's the annual fundraising that occurs every year that goes to the college on an annual basis.
6% of 14 million, so 900 grand times 10 years is $9 million. I mean, it's generating $9 million regardless. I was just crunching numbers. If we pay $300,000 a year plus 6% increase for the next 10 years, it's going to cost the college $4.2 million out of pocket. And I've had the discussion already. I'm just ready to vote. I know I don't have the vote. So just something I think that you guys should stand apart and pay for your own salaries, and that way there's not a conflict of interest on foundation guys and the board guys. And it's like, hey, we're ultimately working for the students and for the college. I just think it would be less messy or easier if we were two separate entities that didn't overlap.
And I'll make just a point to that, Shelby. So if that were to occur, the foundation would have to rearrange how it supported the college. So that change would impact students in the fairly short term, if not a little bit the long term, until we could build up to cover that. But that will be an impact if that were to occur.
I would argue $4.2 million over 10 years from our budget will impact students as well. This money we couldn't give in scholarships to District 2 kids because we don't have it. It's your guys' wages.
But you don't want to give that money back to students. You just want to reduce the mill. I mean, that doesn't help.
Well, why,
students.
if we had this in,
Oh,
say, if we don't spend 420 on advertising this year or 300,000, that's $720,000. We could offer some scholarships to District 2 kids, and I would be fine with that and increase our enrollment.
you know, I would,
I mean, putting those words in my mouth just because I don't want to have an additional expense doesn't mean I don't want to seek out local kids.
wouldn't it be great if we use some of that money to encourage kids in high schools to have their dual credit classes paid for? I mean, really, no fees, no $200 a course, none of that. Completely paid for, because from where I'm standing, and this is just my feeling, okay? From where I'm standing, I'm seeing a lot of students that are not in Butler County using Butler County Community College, and that's fine with me, as long as we taxpayers that live in Butler County that are paying property taxes are getting a little bit fair deal. And by that, I'm just gonna go a couple of places here. I want the kids to get more from Butler County College than they're getting, the Butler kids, okay? And they're not. And when we have a lot of staff that they don't work here, they don't live here either, and we have a lot of kids that come from out of county. But, you know, beyond that, we also have so much money that's not being spent in Butler County that I feel we should. So for that point, I understand what Shelby wants to do. I think it was very upsetting whenever we built that culinary, and I understand the donations and so forth were there, but as a board, we really didn't feel like we had a choice. And I've done the research, and I've gone back and looked at the original corporate filings for the foundation, and the description of what they do has changed a lot over the last 20 years. And I would encourage all of you guys here and on the board to look that up for yourself. But I do believe the foundation serves good purposes. So I'm through. That's all the comments I wanted to make.
Anybody else have any comments?
I just had a question. So there's been a lot of talk about the philanthropy with regard to the foundation. Tom, do you feel that the philanthropy would be impacted? It would change? You feel like people would donate less if the college wasn't paying those portions of the salaries? Or do you think people donating really don't have any idea how that's structured?
I don't know if it would have an impact. For me personally, my gut is that when you're speaking to somebody who supports us philanthropically, they personally have the best interests of the college at heart. So if there's anything that's going to damage that, there would be questions. I would almost expect immediately there'd be questions, what is happening here? And so whether or not that would discourage somebody from making gifts in the future, my guess is that it may, I don't know, but it may. I mean, even talking about this with donors coming into this meeting, I know there's concern.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know what I don't know, I guess, as far as how it all works, which makes it difficult to vote on, if I'm being honest. So, because from a layman's point, I guess I look at it like, okay, if the college is paying 300 and some odd $1,000 and that now becomes a foundation's issue. Worst case is there are 300 and some odd $1,000 less that's awarded to students, and that's like the minimum impact, I guess, unless there's a domino effect of concern or whatever. So I guess I'd kind of go back to what Linda was saying earlier. It would be nice to have a better picture of how all the nuances work and how other colleges do it. Not that we need to mimic them. But I respect Shelby's position. I'm not quite at a place to back it tonight, but it would be nice to dig into it a little bit more, because I do think there's areas we need to cut. I don't know if this is one or not.
And I would just reiterate that the impact that the foundation has on students and the institution is a positive impact. It has been for many years, and it's due in a large part to the series of administrations that have been here, that working with the foundation and trying to achieve goals.
Is there any like special, and maybe this isn't allowed, this may be a stupid question, so don't attack me if I'm bad and wrong here. But is there any like, extra consideration given to Butler County community, or, Butler County students as opposed to out of county students?
So when we speak to donors tell us what their preferences are, and we have scholarships that were Butler county residents are preferred.
Yeah.
As
Well, I know my
such
parents' scholarship has, we prefer this, and this.
Yeah.
And that is, you guys
Yeah.
abide by that.
So if any donor wanted to make that preference, we would honor that, and we do honor that. But then we have a lot of donors that are alums that aren't necessarily Butler residents, but attended here. So they don't see it through that prism. They just see it as helping students that attend Butler.
Right.
So it's really up to the donor. And we have a number of Butler residents who kind of feel that way, and they want to impact Butler students, and we honor that.
Thank you.
I would just offer a comment. If you just look at the table on 26, the expected amount to disperse this year is $900,000, 840 students. So easy math, whole numbers. If you take away $300,000, take away a third of the students, and those are the students that aren't going to get scholarships from the, from the foundation. So you'd be looking at potentially, 250, 300 students maybe that wouldn't get a foundation scholarship if you just do math, just do that simple math. But
Well,
Yeah.
the other thing we haven't brought to the table is that, for instance, the Director of Development Scholarships, the foundation could ask us to take that work back on ourselves. And so there would be a cost in dollars to us. And I think what I've heard is that they're doing a lot better job of it than maybe we did, as just another function of what we were doing. And then I think, the marketing, that's an oversight from Tom that we potentially would have to pay someone else to do. So it's not just the loss of the 300,000 in scholarships. It could be an added expense to us if we have to make up the work that's being done on our behalf by the foundation, which is part of the partnership. So,
Well, actually, they all report to Kim Kroll anyway.
no, they don't, Julie.
Except for the
Tom
finance
Borrego,
person.
no, Tom Borrego reports to me. He's my direct report. The foundation staff report to him. Marketing reports to him. They do not report to me
That's
directly.
just schematics. I understand they don't report to you
Command-
directly.
Okay.
but they're a separate legal entity.
My thought on this is I think it just sends a terrible message. I mean, the foundation has been a partner with the college for decades. They're doing nothing but looking out for the college's best interest and the best interest of the students. And you can point to the culinary building. I've heard that ad nauseum over the last 3 years. The foundation didn't make that decision, the board did. Now, there were some that didn't approve it, and I get that. And it was, I don't remember if it was a 4-3 vote or 5-2 vote at the time. There were dissenters at the time, but the foundation didn't make that decision. They presented us with an opportunity and the board accepted that opportunity. And by the way, we now have a building that's probably worth what?
5.2,
$5.2 million
$5.3
that we bought for less than $1 million. So I don't know how anybody can argue that that's been a bad business decision for the college. I think
Plus-
we should be looking for ways to increase and strengthen our partnership with the foundation,
Plus,
Not- cut their legs out from under them.
any new building that's going on in any college campus. Wichita State just approved $3 or $4 million for their softball facility. That was all done through their foundations. The Koch Foundation's built 4 buildings over there, plus a private school that foundations help build, and we ought to do everything to help continue to build. That's my viewpoint.
I really don't know about building, if I can say this real quick. I admire the foundation. I know they do a lot of really great things. I follow them very closely. I read their publications. I look at their corporate filings every year. And I think that's probably more than a lot of people do, not necessarily board, but a lot of people out in Never Land. But on the other hand, I know they do a lot of great things. I just want to be very careful in how much we absorb. They have a really nice facility over here. They show the building, they show the equipment, and I don't have a problem with that either. I know they do great things for the college. I just want to make sure that we're cognizant that we don't allow the foundation to rule the elected board.
No one besides you has ever felt that the foundation has had an improper influence on any member of this board.
What? Is that what I said?
No, that's what I said.
Way to turn it
Hearing no-
around.
All I'm trying to bring this up for is I philosophically believe if you have a business or an entity, you should pay your own way. We're currently supporting them, and that's money we could be spending on other things. And if we want to support the foundation, we could just say, let's give them $1 million a year, and then we're super supportive. We've lost 50,000 credit hours over the last 10 years. I'm simply trying to find some places we could save some money. Not spending additional money advertising. It's just money we could save, not paying wages to the foundation when they could figure out how to do it themselves is money we could also save. That's the only reason I just think they should stand on their own 2 feet. I like the foundation. I like what they do. And I'm ready to vote.
Okay. Hearing no other comments, Jennifer, we going to vote?
Okay, Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Okay, hey, let me just clarify. So
After all that.
well, the motion was a little different.
We've all forgotten.
In the book, it's a little different than what was stated in the board book. So
Oh, yeah.
the motion is essentially to defund the foundation as with respect to the college, other than the treasurer position. So with that said,
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Shearer,
No.
Trustee Winslow,
Did you already vote, Shelley?
Uh-huh.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. We don't have a majority. I really like the way the foundation does things, with little exception, and that's the truth. I don't like being bullied though. For that reason, I'll say no.
you'll say no.
For that reason, I'll say no.
Okay.
Because I don't like being bullied by the foundation.
Okay, Trustee Rhodes,
no.
Trustee Jolly,
No.
Trustee Brungart,
No.
Trustee Good.
No.
Okay, that motion fails 1-6. We'll move on, and now we're into have to jump in the board book. If you go to page 123, this is the first of the items that we moved from the consent agenda, and it is the esports recommended action. Bill, you want to give us some background on that?
Yes, we had a couple of faculty members came to me last spring with the building out of the 2 esports lounges, one in El Dorado and Andover. The interest in students to use those esports lounges for e-gaming. They wanted to pull together an esports team as a club sport rather than an intercollegiate sport. But we wanted to be recognized by the NJCAA. So that's what this recommendation is. The total cost is like $2,200. But they'll use the existing 2 gaming lounges that were built for student use.
Okay. And on those gaming lounges, were those computers that we had left over from like 3D design, or did we purchase new equipment? I just never saw anything as a board member and just found out we had 2.
Bill Young, you're going to need to help chime in on this in terms of where those
Light bulbs
computers
were used for
came
that.
from,
So
if he's
Sorry.
still on.
This is Bill. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
thanks.
Sorry. So no, we use some student life funds. There's some new equipment in those rooms. There's some repurposed furniture. We did build 2 really nice gaming lounges as part of our student life initiative, both in the student union on El Dorado's campus, and then of course in the 5,000 building on the mezzanine area. So it wasn't, they weren't, I mean, it didn't rise to the, I guess, to the authorization needs to bring to you guys. They weren't classroom computers. We didn't decommit, we didn't take away from student use or classroom. It was just part of a student life initiative that, and building out some overall student engagement experience pieces.
And is this an annual fee or a one-time fee?
This will be an annual. And I will say that esports is becoming very big in the high school scenery.
Well, there are some colleges.
Dark Valley League, I think, is
Yeah.
opening up and I think going to create an esport division.
We have an esports pathway. Tom's in my ear telling me that we do have an esports pathway. There are some colleges in Kansas, in the community college level, that have esports teams with esports coaches and that kind of thing. We're not ready to go to that level and not recommending that at this time. We're just wanting to start as a club sport.
My thought was next month, before the board meeting, to take you over so you can see the gym and the updates in the gym, because it's pretty amazing. And we could walk over and look at the esports room on campus too, if you want to see that, since you were asking about
I
the
guess my
space and stuff.
question Bill addresses, like, as long as this
There's not
floated
enough
under,
room.
under what was needed for board approval on expenditures.
Oh, sure.
If it was like $100,000 for each room, that probably should have been in front of the board.
It wasn't that.
Anything that's necessary. I mean, obviously, I bring anything to you guys that needs your approval, so.
No, I'm not concerned about $2,200 on the thing. I was just curious about the two rooms.
Okay, would entertain a motion to approve the request to establish the esports club team.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the request to establish a Butler Community College esports club team to begin in the fall of 2023 semester.
I would second.
Seeing no other discussion?
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Good.
Yes.
Great, that passes 7-0. We'll move on to the next page in the board book, which is the other item we moved off the consent agenda with respect to the service center lease agreement for the service center on South Rock in Wichita. Would entertain a motion to approve the renewal of the lease agreement, which is, I think, is in the board book. It's a 2-year renewal.
What page is that?
It's on page
124 and 125. I move that the Board of Trustees ratify the attached contract and agreement and the option of renewal of the Butler Service Center on Rock Road in Wichita.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion?
No, just what I've said before. I just think we ought to come back into Butler County and that's it.
Yeah,
We
we
have
discussed it a whole bunch over the last couple of years.
We have a beautiful new facility in Andover. And I would love for people to have to come out to Andover to enroll.
we
Honestly.
do have the mobile enroll, online
Yeah.
enroll.
I would just note, I looked at just the numbers real quick from this, the savings that you would achieve by closing the service center is the roughly $21,000 in lease that you wouldn't be paying. You
Okay.
wouldn't save faculty or staff salary because the assumption would be you're going to need those people at another place to handle the same level of enrollment.
I understand, but
So you're
personally-
just hang on,
sorry.
just think
Yeah,
you're,
yeah, I
you're
got
risking $1.85 million in revenue and all the credit hours that generate that to save what is barely 1% of that amount. So if you lost, if you closed the service center and you expected everyone to come to Rock Road, if you had 95% made the switch, you're still money down. That you've lost 5% of your hours and 5% of your dollars to save 1%. It doesn't make financial sense to me at all.
I understand. I'm not saying firing those people because I know they wouldn't be fired, but we could send them with the mobile enroll. They could come to different towns in Butler County. They could do other things. I'm just personally don't feel we need to be in Butler County enrolling. And that's my, I have a prerogative to make that motion and get voted down, which I'm sure I will, and driving on.
Julie?
I'll second that motion, but bottom line is,
Motion was already seconded.
I'm sorry, didn't he just revise it? Didn't you?
No.
I was just talking.
Okay. there's so many intangibles if they do come out to Andover. I know you guys don't pay a lot of attention to Rose Hill, but you do have a beautiful facility in Andover. And I would love for students to go out there, no matter what, even if we have to say, you know what, if you'll enroll at the Andover facility, we'll give you $20 off a credit hour or whatever we got to do to get them out there. Once they get out there, I think they'll feel the excitement. I think they will love the campus. I think it will encourage them to enroll. And I understand what you're saying about the Rock Road site. I think there's just a lot of intangibles that would be unable to measure unless we did go ahead and close it and offer some kind of compensation at Andover. I mean, it's just a gorgeous facility out there. And any of you guys have been out there lately? I mean, I know you have, but and I know you're out there all the time, but you know, I was shocked at some of the stuff I saw. I went with a board member for Rose Hill and toured it. I'm like,
I would add also that these staff members would need offices in Andover, and we have 0 offices in Andover. You
We
can
got
ask our
plenty in
dean's
Rose Hill.
council. We've tried to, I mean, the office space is very, very tight in Andover. And we do have students that enroll at the service center that attend classes in Rose Hill. So that service center, again, $1.8 million in revenue for the cost of the total lease, utilities, salaries, everything in that building is less than $100,000, which to your point earlier is less than 0.01%, 0.001% of the entire budget. So we talked about like saving money, what's working well, what's not working well. We're
it is only a
generating
2-year
significant
lease.
credit hours at that facility to the tune of $1.8 million. That to me doesn't make sense to walk away from, to risk it for less than the $100,000 it costs to operate it. So.
Think we can, anybody else have any?
And it is
any
only a
comments on
2-year lease, right?
It is it's a 2-year renewal.
And I would add too, just a reminder, in 19 years, that lease has gone up $3,060. It's not going up from at the renewal time to what it was last year. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Jennifer, I think we can.
Trustee Smith,
Nope.
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes, for now.
trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Good.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-1. Thanks, everybody. We can move back to the regular, I'm sorry,
The overall
yes.
consent agenda.
Would it
I
Would
move to
entertain a
approve the
motion.
consent agenda as presented.
as amended, you mean?
No. Consent agenda wasn't.
Yeah,
I
you
guess
took
we
a
did
few
amend
things
it.
off.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
took
yeah,
a couple of things.
as amended.
We have
And
a
I'll second it.
Okay, no discussion on that one.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. That passes 7-0. Now we can move on. For those that are here for standing reports, thank you for entertaining our kind of change in schedule tonight. We can move on to standing reports. I'm guessing do we have a student government report yet?
No,
Okay,
No.
not quite. So top staff,
Zach.
hey, a new face.
Hi, I'm Zach Kennedy, the new ops staff president. My fellow new officers are Alyssa Dinky White as vice president, Patty McFadden as secretary, and Jana Porter as treasurer. We're excited to serve our ops staff members for the next 2 years. We appreciate the board approving our 6% salary increase for operational staff, recognizing our dedication to this college. We'll be sponsoring welcome back tables for the students on the first 2 days of classes at the El Dorado, Andover, Rose Hill, and McConnell campuses. There will be no August meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 14th in Andover campus.
Can I ask you a quick question? When is that welcome back scheduled?
It'll be Monday and Tuesday, the first 2 days of classes from 7:30 to 11.
And they put welcome tables all around campus and have snacks and water
Provide
and
snacks and maps to
Okay,
the,
what date?
oh, the 21st and 22nd, sorry.
Okay. In the different facilities that are Butler, right?
Yeah, so we'll have them at both our main campuses and then Rose Hill and McConnell. They'll be at the fire science building as well.
Great. Great. I wish I could get more kids to enroll in Rose Hill and a ham room, maybe.
Anything else? Exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professional employees, Dr. Sater.
It appears to be on. All right. Glad to be back after a refreshing summer break. Not much to report since my colleagues have not all yet made it back to campus. On the other hand, I don't want to leave anyone with the impression that faculty merely arrive the Sunday night before classes start and walk into their classes. I'm sure.
We would never think that.
Very good, because I'm sure many, if not most of my colleagues are doing just what I am and spending many hours already prepping for our classes. Next week, our professional development days begin on Monday. And as usual, we have a great many activities and lineups that help us prepare for our classes, prepare for the semester, and generally make us better instructors and make the college even better than it already is. For example, we have keynote speakers that are focused on AI in education, and that's a really big deal for us, and I'm sure you've heard about it. We have breakout sessions covering such things as improving the videos that we make for our classes, improving our online teaching, improving just basic undergraduate education behaviors. So at any rate, we have a busy week next week, and I'll take the liberty, and the president can get me later for doing this, but I'll take the liberty of inviting you to drop in during the week. If you need me to send you a schedule, I will. A lot of great things going on. And just to expand that liberty a bit more, the president always has a nice little get together Monday night at 4 o'clock. And you can be my guest if nothing else. So
It's on my list too.
Yeah.
nice to see you.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Dr. Sater, do you guys do a lot of your professional development, like teachers teaching teachers or professionals teaching professionals?
All of those breakout sessions.
Yeah, just in case.
All of those breakout sessions are run by colleagues. It is teacher to teacher.
Cool.
Good question.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just had that one question.
Board Finance Committee, Mary Martha or Linda, this afternoon.
Okay, you received, I think, via email your July statement of revenue, expenditures and other charges. So what we're hearing is that basically the expenses are in line with last year. We are going to have this student services piece. It's a little higher, but just timing of when something was purchased. I said, I'm just over my hoard of toilet paper from the pandemic, so I'm having to buy it this year. So that's my own budget. It's like that. But from
You were the reason. You're now we
Some details going up.
my daughter was just discussing that last week, reminding me once again. But she was coming over to borrow, I will say. So another thing is in reference to accounting timing. When you look at that first line item for tuition fees, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
You. Yes, you. And then of course, interest or other sources is interest is much higher now. Great deal. And I think other than that, I didn't make any other notes. So if I missed something, I can't fill it in.
It's good.
Okay, Linda, thank you much.
Mhm.
I will move on to the foundation board report. Nothing to report. The foundation board will meet later this month. Dr. Krill, your report.
Thanks. A couple of different things. Open enrollment started Monday for health insurance benefits. And so employees have until the 18th to get enrolled with their Blue Cross Blue Shield benefits and all of that stuff. It's a busy time for HR, but they do a great job. Shelley also wanted me to report to say to you that as part of the this coming year's budget and with salary changes, she was able to raise the minimum starting wage from $11 to $13 using the equity dollars that have been embedded in the budget for a number of years. And that's, really impactful for our folks that currently are employed that are some of in those salary ranges, but also helps us be a little bit more competitive when we're trying to hire hourly folks, because that's been a challenge in a number of different employment classifications. So wanted to let you know that those equity dollars that are part of that budget each year are really important. You probably have seen maybe or will see if you haven't yet the e-news newsletters that are coming out to specifically Andover and El Dorado. Those two communities are out. Augusta and Rose Hill are coming. Purchasing email lists of residents, and it gives the marketing folks an opportunity to create an e-newsletter that has a focus really specifically on those communities and gives them a chance to showcase maybe graduates or business partnerships or something that are kind of specific to those communities. So, watch for those. Butler Culinary folks, again, this year, and College Relations and Marketing helped Farm Bureau with their Farm to Fork that was at Fulton Valley Farms a few weeks ago. Really a hot night, not as good of attendance as they've had in the past. Dave was there, but we had a number of college folks there, and a nice evening, and obviously great food that culinary folks prepared using locally sourced products from area ranchers and farmers. We also celebrated a few weeks ago the 1-year anniversary of the Redler Institute, and had a really nice evening and again, or afternoon, I guess, able to showcase students, culinary students, and garmager. So it was all cold, snacks that they had prepared, and Forrest and Dave were able to be there. I think, yeah, you two folks were able to be there. So that was nice. Had a good crowd and lots of energy and lots of fun. At the August 26th work session, Jenny McCausland, who's the Andover City Administrator, and Lance Onstott will be here. The City of Andover's in the process, is starting the process to all of the steps that have to be taken to start to build out Yorktown. That will be on the east side of our property, and Commerce, which is to the south of our property. They have to go through a condemnation process to get the easements and the right of ways on the far east and the far south side of those future roadways. But some of this work was done a number of years ago, and in that process, as part of the renovation and opportunity to do the work at the 5,000 building, part of the agreement with us, as was the agreement with the school district and all of their renovations and buildings that they did. We have to partner with them on road development. So they'll come to talk to the board about what that looks like. In the time that we signed those original petitions, of course, the costs have gone up. So they're coming back to talk about those. Yorktown, then once they build it out east of us, and Commerce to the south of us, but Yorktown will be only the second north-south route through Andover, and will connect Kellogg to 13th Street, which runs on the north side of us. And at some point in time, eventually, not not necessarily right away, but at some point in time, they'll end up doing road improvements on 13th. Their strategic planning process that I was part of and that they finished up or went through early shows all of their growth really north and east in Andover. So that Yorktown's going to be a huge connector for them. So they'll be at the work session to talk more about that and give you some more details, but just wanted to let you know about that. And then it's been probably it's probably dropped off your radar screen maybe, but I know quite a while ago, it's actually been as long ago as last year. We were informed that the community college, the Jayhawk Conference, would go through a legislative post audit. Representative Williams requested that post audit to look at our athletic programs. It's taken a long time for them to get to this audit specifically. And I just wanted to let you know that some of those initial conversations are starting. The original discussion, at least originally when this was proposed, it was that it would be we all thought that it would be all of the colleges, the 21 colleges in the Jayhawk Conference. We have a Northwest Tech as part of that conference, and then Heston is part of that conference as a private institution. But it's been narrowed down significantly. And right now, Butler and Garden and Hutch will be part of that post audit. And then there's some thought that Dodge and Coffeyville will be added as well. But we're just really on the front end of that. Once the actual post audit starts and the research starts, it's an extremely confidential process. And so no information is shared until the final report is presented to post audit committee, and then that document can be made more public. But I just wanted to let you know that is starting. It's going to be require a significant effort by each of the colleges and a significant amount of time to pull the information that's needed. They're looking at 8 sports. We have 7 of those 8 sports. They're looking at 5 years worth of information. So for us, just even on an annual basis, if we look at our 7 sports and the certified rosters, we have easy number 200 athletes a year. So we're looking at pulling records and providing information just from Butler for probably just over 1,000 students when you and I should say 1,000 unique students because we have students that are here multiple years, but potentially 1,000 students, but there'll be duplications in that. So it'll be an extensive study and extensive from the standpoint of time. So
what information will be provided or at the end? I mean, what are we going to see? What are we looking at?
We don't know. What they're looking at is the students that come to our colleges from either outside of the home county or specifically from out of state and internationally. And then they're also looking at athletic expenditure budgets and scholarships, those kinds of things. It'll be interesting to see what that final report is, because looking at 3 or maybe 5 institutions across the conference will not, there's nothing that's consistent among the colleges across the conference in the way that every college has a board of trustees that helps identify tuition and fees and scholarship amounts and those kinds of things. And so there's a lot of difference in all of the colleges. So we're not quite sure what the final report will look like. And don't yet know exactly the questions that they will be asking and the information that they want. We're still working through those kinds of things.
Well, just as institutions, appears that they're taking 3 of the larger, maybe 2 of the mid-size and none of the smaller.
What we understand is that they looked at all of the colleges and the different teams that they had and chose the 8 sports that they're looking at are football, men's and women's basketball, men's and women's soccer, volleyball, softball, and baseball. And so the teams that they're looking at, or the colleges that they're looking at, they actually have kind of identified, 7 or 8 or 9 colleges all have those, at least that core of sports. It doesn't represent all of the sports that some institutions have. We certainly don't have men's soccer, so we've got 7 of the 8, but right now, the 3 of us that are being reviewed have either 7 or 8 of those sports. Coffeyville and Dodge have all of those sports. So we'll see. But certainly there's institutions that are very small that aren't being looked at. There are institutions that Barton, for instance, has way more sports than any of us have, but they don't have football. So it'll be interesting to see, but I just wanted to let you know that that's starting. And will be an extensive endeavor of time on all of the institutions' part. So we'll.
One last question. Who's actually paying for the study to be done?
Well, I can't answer that question necessarily, but each institution, if you look at man hours and time, we pay for that. I don't know if there's a cost on the legislative end. I don't know that for
Well,
sure.
somebody has to interpret the information.
Well, yeah, so the folks in legislative in post audit, there's staff in post audit that are doing it. So they would have time and salaries too. So I suppose the taxpayers,
Yeah.
I suppose we pay their salaries, I guess. So
I have several questions on her report.
Wait, hang on a second. Are you done? Let's go forward.
the only other thing that I had on my report was just to remind you about the PDD social Monday, the 14th. Is that Monday? Is that the date? Yeah, at 4 p.m. downstairs, 4 to 5:30, I think. Snacks. You can have an adult beverage if you want to. And so it's just a nice time to, have faculty and staff around, and you're certainly welcome to come join us.
Julie.
Okay, the 11 to 13 that you mentioned, is that, what percent do we have in that pool, Shelley? Do you have an off the cuff answer to that?
Well, it's not quite that simple, but basically we take the entire wage scale and adjust it up. So whereas our wage scale started at 11, okay,
Who decides what we start in a bottom line?
we did a study 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago almost, and did a lot of marketing and so forth at our jobs. So we knew we needed to move it up. We moved it to 13. We've been planning this. We saved for it. And then that kind of pushes everything else forward as well. So kind of a cascading effect, if you will. So somebody that was making $13 in an administrative assistant position is now, you can't have them making the same as somebody that's in the grounds or a custodian. You have to push everything up along with it. So to say who benefited from that move
No, I just wanted a percent on how many people were actually paid that wage.
at one
Kind of
time.
wage.
Oh, at the $11 an hour.
Hmm.
We had a lot of
13.
Well, yeah, there's probably, that the wage varies for hourly employees. The 13 is the lowest, but there are probably 3 or 4 groups that are in that category of $13 an hour. And it's probably maybe 35, 40 people, maybe 30, maybe. Mostly in facilities. We have pretty high turnover in that area. And so we know we had a retention problem because of rate, and, Spangles is paying $12 an hour. So,
They are, I know that.
Right?
I saw that on the sign.
So, we have been in the planning on this. We just had to be able to have enough funds to be able to accomplish.
Okay, my next question is the e-newsletters, the emails. Where do you get those emails?
Kelly, I indicated that Kelly's purchasing those. You purchase email lists from
the schools or?
No, it's a list source.
List source, okay. So they can be going to students plus parents.
No, they're going to residents, I would guess, right?
Okay. Okay,
So since Kelly didn't have a microphone, she indicated that the youngest would be 18.
youngest will be 18. There, how's that? I could pass it back. Okay, so my next thing is, we have a new superintendent in Rose Hill, and I was wondering if you've been down to meet him.
I have not yet,
Okay, do you-
but we will. We always schedule a tour. Yep, it's in the works. So
I was gonna say, we have a new superintendent also.
I have met her.
Okay, and then farm to fork, that really was a hot day and I have had heat strokes, so I would love it if you would move it back to the original date of September.
Well, we don't get to choose that. That's a Farm
But-
Bureau date. We just partner with them and
I
they're the ones
know
that set the date.
that's
So
what they told me,
And I
they-
passed.
that it was our responsibility to set the date.
that they had it there and it was moved back to August.
I don't
No.
think that was our decision at all.
I don't
That
know.
wasn't the decision.
No.
That's
That's Farm Bureau.
I visited with a board member of Farm Bureau and they are looking at moving it to September.
Oh, good. Okay.
So
And then the Red Alert closing, do we have a date on that yet? I know that wasn't in your report, but you did mention Red Alert in the meeting some point.
I just
So-
mentioned the
Yeah,
1 year anniversary a second ago.
We are in the process of getting the title transfer finalized, and once we get all that done, then the transaction can be conducted between the college and the foundation. So we're really close.
Like 30 days, maybe it'll
Oh,
be done,
it'll be, yeah,
60.
yeah, it won't take 60.
Okay, and then the Andover building that was sold over on 13th, was it? No, 21st, sorry. That went into what fund? You told me, Kent, and I forgot.
The capital project reserve.
Okay, and do you know how much that ended up closing for? It sure went for a lot more than the
Price
price.
$1.9 million.
Was it?
Yes, it was.
Thought it was more than that.
I do know
Wishful
there-
thinking. Okay, and then let's see. When Rose Hill built that construction building over there on 180th, do you happen to know if they split the difference of that road with the school district or
No, I
the
don't.
college?
No, I don't
or-
think so. I mean, I'm not aware that the college paid anything for road development on that project.
Okay, because I
I
know
think it
that-
would depend on, city ordinance and stuff like that, probably, but
Well, actually, that's really a township road, as far as I know, and ain't even a city road, which I don't understand, but cities always poor, they have. That's the excuse we always get. So I think the township did, but I'm not sure on that. I
The
just
college
wondered if they
didn't.
hit you up for some of that.
Nope.
Okay. And then, I really appreciated Linda's question about who's paying for that audit, but I don't think it's, discriminating at any kind. I just think they decide different audits go to different places every year and they only have so much money in that elite team that does these post audits. And so they have to pick from a great big barrel of possibilities.
my understanding for legislative post audit is that the post audit committee directs them the audits that they want. And they're required to fulfill those audits. I don't think legislative post audit chooses, if it comes onto their list, they have to fulfill that audit.
At some point. Okay.
That's my understanding.
Dr. Pearl, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on to the Educational Facilities Authority. Dave, you have anything?
I think we're having a meeting coming up. I do know that Ireland and different people have been over at BG Stadium learning the new or the video boards and all that kind of scoreboards and stuff like that.
I don't know that maybe Ireland's been over there. That would be Bill
Yeah.
Young and his team and Matt and Tyler and the students and stuff that are running them. So, yeah.
I met the new person at El Dorado and
Yeah.
she had said something to me about that.
Yeah.
So
Okay, thank you. We'll keep moving forward. We don't have a monitoring report this evening, so we will move on to our discussion items, starting off with the Aruba wireless and wired infrastructure, which is page 5 of the board book. And Um,
Bill or Christine,
Yep.
Christina.
I would love the opportunity to speak about
the
that.
floor is yours.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Aruba Network serves as our overarching border-to-border wireless and wired solution. We've been on Aruba Networks for about 5 years. We transitioned from a Cisco environment to Aruba in the spring and summer of 2018. It was a mighty lift and shift, but we made it successful. And so for the last few years, we've paid for this out of her funding. And so this year, we're going to pay for it with already allocated funds. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
What do you think the benefit is that we changed? I mean, I was always used to a Cisco, so I really don't know a whole lot about Aruba. I mean,
That's okay. So
what do you
Cisco,
feel like is the best benefits?
so Cisco was a leading standard across the whole world.
Right.
Cisco is a great product. I have nothing wrong or against Cisco. Aruba is more geared towards education pricing. So it is a cheaper solution for us. It gave us the opportunity to afford border-to-border wireless. When we had our previous environment, we had wireless within the building, and it was very spotty. Now we have wireless border-to-border, so you can walk across our campus and not lose connectivity.
With your laptop in hand,
Mhm.
working while you're walking.
You could,
to the next
yeah.
meeting.
Yep. So students sit outside. It's really fun to watch the kids sit outside in the fall and the spring. They sit out on their laptops. Sometimes the instructors take their students outside and they have their classes.
So it's
and-
been better overall as an IT person.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's better managed, and we have centralized management now as well.
Okay, thank you for answering.
Yes. Heather's usually pretty good about focusing on their faces, superimposed over Christina's, so, which no one has. Okay, this was just for discussion purposes tonight, so I assume we'll see something action item next time.
You're correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we will move on to the renewal of the chatbot and texting platform. Christina, are you on that one too?
I would love to.
All right.
So Ocelot is our IA chatbot.
Is that what I get every time I log on?
It is. So every time you go to butlercc.edu, you'll notice down in the bottom right-hand corner,
Oh, yeah.
a little question with a little question mark, and Griswold is sitting there and his aviators waiting to answer any questions you may have. The cool thing that we have with Griswold is if you ask Griswold a question he can't answer, we get that opportunity to go back in and answer that question. So if anybody asks that question again, they'll get the correct answer. It really helps students and anybody in the public navigate and find information within our website and within the
So if I go back
institution.
and repeat any of the questions that I got really flaky answers for last year from Griswold, they now have the legit answers in.
I sure hope so.
Okay.
So this was a product that we purchased during COVID. And so we would like to continue the services as well. We added on the texting platform. So now student services can engage with students. They can start a texting campaign and it will broadcast a text to students. And then if a student responds to that message, it will start a one-on-one conversation with the campaign owner. And so it provides a great opportunity to reach students. As you all know, when you get phone calls on your cell phone that you don't recognize, who answers those? I would like to know because I normally don't. So our students want to be reached by texting. And so that provides us that opportunity to actually reach our students because we know people don't answer their phones.
What is another vendor that has similar product to Griswold?
You know, I can get back to you on that. We evaluated them in the beginning. I can't think of what those products were in the beginning, but we did
17
evaluate them.
years ago, right? When you evaluated them.
No, so they have been providing their product for 17 years. We've been utilizing them since COVID.
Okay,
Sorry for that confusion.
no, it's okay.
Thank you. Next up is the Council Grove site. Heather, you want to lead that one?
Sure. Tired of listening to me yet tonight?
Okay, if you, I don't know what page that is in the
Page
board
8.
book.
Page 8.
Page 8.
7 and 8, yep.
Have put together some information very similar to the information that I provided about McConnell. And it functions very similarly in terms of the way that those staff support the college. So starting out, that first table shows the revenues and expenditures. You do not have Forvis data on this because when we put those together, our budget information, Council Grove and Marion are together. They are overseen by the same director who oversees both locations. So those are together in Forvis. And
Do you
so
have any way to split that up in?
using the Forvis tool right now, no, it would have to be done on the back end, which I have not been a part of. So I could not do that for you in the amount of time I had to provide the information. So I have split it out. You're looking just at Council Grove. So you'll see administrative, our personnel costs, the instructional costs, non-personnel expenses, so lease, utilities, and so forth. And then again, similar to the service center, direct and indirect revenue that comes from those staff at that location enrolling students in classes. So classes at the facility that they are officed in addition to other classes. So, and then in that far right column, you see the revenues over expenditures. So moving down then, the enrollment for the classes that are held at the Council Grove facility. Again, those are primarily Council Grove high school students because we do not have any space in their high school building to do those. So they walk across the street to take those classes with us. We do a lot of connecting classrooms at that location through Zoom. We've talked about that before. In the table next to that, that just shows the credit hours that those staff are enrolling in it. So that includes the classes at Council Grove. But as you can see, they're enrolling more than just those classes there. And I'm sure you're wondering AY21, why that's so big. So this just is a great example of the way that we help each other out at Butler, that we had a new director of high school partnerships when I took this role. And so those ladies were helping us process the enrollments. So actually almost all of that additional was Butler County enrollments that they were doing out there to help our new director. Moving down then, Trustee Brungart, you had talked about wanting some comparables. So we reached out to the chamber, to different people in the community to get this information. So you can see the right-hand table, the Council Grove lease from 2008 to 2023. And then that table to the left then is buildings that are in the same area, what their square footage is and what that cost is in annual lease.
Are these all gross leases like what we have? In other words, the landlord's paying taxes and insurance.
Amy, do you know that? You don't know? Okay, yeah. I could find out.
The only thing it's real hard as far as comparable rentals in a small town, obviously, and Linda was just doing a price per square foot kind of comparison and on the surface, it doesn't really, the lease that we're paying doesn't look completely out of line with that limited information. The thing that's kind of alarming to me, if I'm being honest, is going from 10,770 per year up to 17,700 per year over that same time frame. I just haven't seen lease rates increase that dramatically in any town that size.
I wanted to make sure you noted too that we did increase the square footage in there too. Okay.
But even from 2013 to now, you've got 10 years and it's going up by like 30%. Commercial rates, I'd just be shocked if that's the typical increase, but it's hard to know without knowing, like I said, what the terms are of the other leases.
There was also a new property owner, wasn't there? Didn't that building sell in that period of time too?
It did. And then the recent increase was we hadn't seen one in a while. And so he did increase. And you had asked for a copy of that lease that was approved by the board, I believe, in February. Actually probably approved at the January board meeting. But, and I know that in that lease, that layout of the building wasn't a great in the lease agreement. So we actually had the next page shows the actual layout of the facility.
Have they made any improvements to the building or significant improvements with change of ownership or anything we've asked them to do? I mean,
I don't think that we haven't asked for a lot, Amy, I don't think.
You'll need to come to the microphone, Amy,
Yeah.
please, so they can hear you. Thanks.
Sure. There was a new furnace put in. They did some painting on the exterior to improve the
Oh, I
curb
remember
appeal.
the painting of the exterior. Mhm.
I actually noticed it on every town.
Yeah.
Road last.
Yeah, he's a K-State fan, so he painted it purple, which we loved. Yeah, it was nice.
Any other questions for Heather? Hey, thank you for pulling this together. Yep.
Thank you,
Um,
Heather.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the strategic plan, which is on page 13 of the board book. Dr. Pearl.
Yep, the passing around this annual, just kind of annual overview is hot off the press this afternoon from Kelly Cruz in College Relations and Marketing. You know, it's the same format you've seen for the last couple of years, but I did want to just provide a little bit of an overview for you and then talk just a little bit about this coming year and few little revisions or updates. So, you know, new mission and vision are on there. Of course, our timeless institutional values. The second page identifies for you really why our strategic plan is important and what it allows us to do. Allows us to address changes in higher education, design goals and priorities and performance indicators that leverage our strengths, ensures a college culture and environment where faculty, staff, and students belong, engage, and thrive, and helps direct our vision, work, and resources towards an innovative and progressive vision. List the 6 overarching goals. Those should be familiar to you. Those are always, the strategic plan is always the very first page in your board book. So if you go to your board book and look at the very first page, it's got the same information on it, Butler mission and vision and strategic priorities. So let me go down through these with you just a little bit and tell you kind of where we are this year.
It's choking you up, isn't it?
No, it is. Sorry about that. And the few kind of minor changes that are being made for next year. So under students, supporting students and their success, priority 1 was to maximize equitable access for students. We wanted to successfully implement the Kansas Promise Scholarship, and we did a really good job of that. I think maybe in some of your information, I emailed to you at some point in time that in this past year, the second year Kansas Promise, we distributed more than $606,000 to 242 students. And already this coming year, we will exceed that goal. So we had a successful implementation of that. We also wanted to maximize institutional and foundational scholarships, partnered together with some of the foundation scholarships to provide to students as they enrolled. We had a person that was really kind of in charge of doing that, and that person stepped away from that position. And so we had a little bit of gap in time, but we still felt that we were about 75% successful in achieving that goal. We also wanted to improve student outcomes, including retention, persistence, and completion, and had set a goal of increasing institutional and departmental persistence and retention by 1%. And we met that overall. There were some departments that didn't, individual departments that didn't meet that 1%, but overall we did as an institution. We also wanted to address strategic enrollment and increase our conversion rates of interested to applicants. By 5%. We felt like we had accomplished that about at the level of about 50%, but that's an ongoing goal. Again, we accomplished that in some pockets, but not completely overall. And then we had some individual categories of students that we had pulled out that we wanted to increase enrollment in, specifically adult student enrollment, EDCF, incoming transfer students, and increase online enrollment by certain percentages. And again, in pockets, we achieved those enrollment goals, but in some areas we didn't. EDCF, we had a 10% increase and we kind of blew that one out of the water. So, some success in that area. The few changes that will be made to that, still the same overarching goal for next year. The few changes that will be made to that are really, if you look at the Kansas Promise, we're going to keep that in place, but we also want to successfully implement the prison education program, the second chance Pell dollars. And so you'll see that as we report on that next time around. The other thing, when we talk about, for instance, improving student outcomes, retention, persistence, and completion, and then addressing the strategic enrollment, a lot of the conversation at the Board of Regents level is moving to a focus on persistence and retention and completion in their using underrepresented student populations, and institutions can choose those categories of students. And so some of that wording or some of those goals will change next year, in that we'll focus on underrepresented student populations. So it may be first generation learners or something like that, but to really frame our work around what those baselines are, researching what their retention and completion rates are, and then making sure we have student services wrapped around those. When we advance communities and partnerships, the priority was to strengthen partnerships with business and industry, advisory committees, and stakeholders, and implement at least 8 new partnerships and internships to support workforce. We accomplished that goal. We have a number of partnerships and apprenticeships with, for instance, the Independent Electricians Contractors of Kansas, the IDEW 304 linemen. And so we have a number of those that we have established that we've worked on. Developing a model and track non-credit training hours. This shows 0% complete, and that's not any fault of ours. There's going to be a model that's developed at the state level that all the institutions will use to track non-credit training hours. And so we got partway into the year, but didn't work on that because that's according to ESOM happening among the institutional research people, and KBOR will kind of send that down our way when we get to that. That goal will remain the same for next year. We'll be looking at some of those same performance indicators. And when we talk about enhancing employee success and excellence, budgeting the funding to address market readiness, compensation, and equity. We just talked about that. We felt like we had accomplished that. This is an ongoing goal. We continue to need to support salary increases for our employees and equity funding to support that market readiness. When we talk about promoting internal and external opportunities for professional development, this specific time around, we really wanted to identify key supervisors and managers to attend leadership development opportunities. We have some examples there, and we have accomplished that. Next year, what we will do probably for this goal is to really look at development of an internal professional development program. One of Shelley's ideas is that we would have an opportunity to maybe enlist a graduate student from Wichita State that's working in HR or working on, some sort of human resources that would be maybe be able to do an internship opportunity or experience with us that would help develop help us start to develop that internal leadership and professional development program. So that's something that we're looking at. Enhancing staffing and capacity levels, even though it's listed in your board book as one of the goals for next year, that was I missed that. We actually rolled that into the priority 2. We're going to include that as part of our work for internal professional development. So I missed that as it was going into the board book. That should be not actually listed separately. When we drive institutional sustainability and growth, we want to again strengthen internal and external partnerships to create new funding sources. And part of that is to broaden the donor alumni base. That's an ongoing project. And so we felt like we had accomplished that at about a 50% level because that's just going to be a continuing process. And then again, forming at least 6 new business partnerships that result in direct program support. So in that case, you're looking for partnerships, for instance, like with Foley, that, will donate to Diesel Tech, or GTG that donates an engine to Diesel Tech or something like that. So a lot of those partnerships are things where we may be getting equipment donations or scholarship support or in-kind donations. And that priority will stay the same for next year as well. We wanted to ensure institutional accountability and compliance for and what we listed as a performance indicator there was to plan for our HLC visit. And we accomplished that. That was complete on, we felt like it was complete the day they left campus. We had to wait on their report for a while, but this goal next year then will be to address the recommendations that they put forth in the final report, and to make sure that we adhere to that deadline for the interim monitoring report and get that accomplished. As we champion excellence in innovation, increasing engagement of digital professional development opportunities, we felt like we really accomplished that goal. This same goal and performance indicator will be in place probably for next year, and our focus is really going to be on building out additional business processes using digital means. Strengthening competency-based education. Opportunities where we're looking at credit for prior learning or military credit or apprenticeships. Again, felt like we had accomplished good work in this area. And this will be an ongoing goal for us in the next year as well. Those are always areas where we can continue to improve and build out those opportunities. And there's certainly more and more need as we look at workforce development and talk to our workforce partners to provide opportunities where people can connect the work that they're doing on the job and the current training that they're getting with credit, crosswalk it to credit, to shorten their time to certificate completion or degree completion or, whatever they're trying to accomplish. And then inspiring values of equity and access. These priorities will all stay the same for next year. Again, with a focus still on, making sure that we have a learning and working environment where we engage and give people opportunities to participate and be heard. Phil talked a lot in his monitoring report a couple of months ago about the importance of the Inclusion Council. And this is something that Inclusion Council helps us with pretty significantly. But there were a lot of conversations that happened with faculty and staff in the last year, a lot of different speakers that came to campus and opportunities to create events surrounding specific cultural kinds of celebrations. So we felt like we had done a good job on that performance indicator. Again, you'll see underrepresented populations noted in priority 2. Creating dashboards of enrollment, retention, completion, and transfer for first generation learners. This is the start again of that build out of the student success priority and goal to look at making sure that we support students, whether they're first generation learners or whether they fall into another category of underrepresented students, and making sure that we're really paying attention to what their persistence and retention rates are and completion rates are, and understanding if we're not hitting those goals, why we aren't and what we need to do to try to help those students reach their educational goals. And then continuing again to make sure that as we recruit and hire, that we're giving it a really broad-based look of workforce and who we can, what advertising we can do, what recruiting we can do. We revised and established procedures for selection of search committee members and did a really good job of that. And then utilize some additional intentional processes to advertise and attract diverse candidate pools. And we accomplished some of that. We don't always get diverse candidate pools that we want, but we're making attempts to try and reach out in different ways to broaden those candidate pools. What questions do you have? little tidbits of information that go along with this. If you have thoughts on things for to add or to make some simple revisions to the work that we're going to continue next year, be sure and email those to me.
Well, yeah, I would, if it's okay, I'll just email them to the
Yeah.
board as well.
Just include me as
The
well.
only suggestions I have is the same ones I've always had, is that we need to tie the strategic plan to actual goals and objectives. And although you listen some, they have to point to the organization that developed that particular goal and objective. They have to tie to it. I mean, that's just.
I'm not
proper-
understanding what you're saying.
When
I
you do a
guess.
strategic plan, it's based on your mission statement of the entire company,
Mhm.
period.
Sure.
Okay?
Yep. And our
And
mission
then
statement's listed
from-
here.
And I see that. And from then it goes down to the scope, and from then it goes down to, okay, here is the organizations, A, B, C, D, F, G organizations. And each organization has a part of that strategic plan and that mission statement. And all of the objectives point to that mission statement
So you're talking
by organization that will complete that particular objective. Yes.
well, we
So
are
it-
the organization. What
So-
organizations are you talking about?
Well, are you the only one? You're not the only one that contributes to this plan. You have several
No.
organizations within the college, and
Oh,
and
I
and
see what you're
so
saying.
if we have the organization, then we can tie it back and say, hey, you know what? Organizations A, B, C, and D, they're going to do this part of that strategic plan.
We do
identify
champions for each of
Yeah.
these. We do. Are you talking about departmental kinds
Yeah,
of
I'd
things,
like
not
to see 'em
organizations
instead of-
necessarily?
Yeah, well, department, I'm so sorry. I keep using that organization word, but I really mean department. So when I say that, just know that I mean department. Because that's really what I'm talking about. It's the departments and how they take, because here's the thing, you can have lots of nice goals, but how you're going to get there and objectives or how you're going to get there is up to each individual organization or,
Yeah, when we build out this template, we identify the people that are really kind of in charge
Yeah, I'd love
of
to see
these.
that from
And
start to finish.
Tom in Dr. Neville's academic area, the academic deans have gone through and developed an academic, kind of plan that folds into this as well.
Yeah.
So people are cognizant of it and understand.
Okay.
Can I add to that just a little bit? So when we, as a leadership team, kind of identify these strategies across the bigger, broader college for to meet
And
that
each part of the
mission.
college has to have a role in it.
Yes, of course.
So you're.
This is
your
what I'm getting ready to
particular-
say. If I could just go ahead and tell you our processes and how they kind of flow down.
I can see.
So these then are identified like, okay, so this is something that HR is going to most likely team lead. And so that comes to me, right? And I take it to my team and I get my team involved. So what we do is we set goals to achieve this strategic priority within our department. But it also cascades out because we're not the only ones that do HR stuff, right? Every department does. So as a hiring group or as those type of things, we have to enlist others to achieve that goal as well.
And there'll be lots of goals and objectives that'll be.
But those
common among
are
different-
all done internally through that split. What you're seeing here is the overarching strategic plan, not the individual departmental
And
goals
I'd
and
love to see the
objectives.
department.
Well, and if you look at the key performance indicators that we do report out in the board book, those are how we're achieving those goals through those departments. It tells you what department is working on those goals, and we report those out in the board book every month.
Okay, they should be honestly in part of that strategic plan, but I understand this is what you publish and what we get in the board book may not be something that you publish, but it would just be nice if we tied it in, because every department that doesn't meet their goals and objectives has to make some changes. Let's put it that way.
Shelby, do you have a comment? Yeah, I would like to see a strategic goal, not just maximize access or address strategic enrollment, but actually increase enrollment as a strategic goal. We need to turn around our declining enrollment.
Right.
Have that be a goal in black and white that we can actually see if next year we're gonna have more students than we had the previous year. That should be an amazing goal, not just address it. I mean, yeah, it's important that we need to turn it around, but how are we gonna do it? Let's make that a metric. And there is one thing online for including retention. There's a future authoring program they did a study on with college students. And I think for men's retention, it didn't double, but it made almost 50% more, and they had a 20 or 30% increase in their GPA, and it's fairly inexpensive. Just it would be something we could look at for students incoming. It's online, it's fairly simple to do, it doesn't take very long, it's $20 to $50, but it does give people a vision of their future, like, hey, because a lot of people even in school or college are never asked, like, what do you want to do with your life? What would happen if you did the best you could, or what would be happen if you slack off and don't do what you should do? And it gives you a little bit of focus. But it might be something you guys want to look into and just explore. I don't know if you can get a group rate or not. But
I don't know what you're talking about. Do
Maybe
you know,
you can send that
Ethan?
information to everybody. The board.
I could send it.
Okay,
I could send the link.
will you send me the link?
Sure.
I'm not familiar
Yeah,
with what you're
there's
talking
a-
about.
I don't think we're sitting here downgrading this. I just think that what I'm saying is I just like to see more detail and see who's responsible for what part of each generic objective or each general objective.
Well, if you
How you're
look,
going to achieve those.
you know, if you look at the KPIs again that are in the board book, it lists the names of the people that are overseeing that specific performance indicator. There aren't any in this month, but if you go back and look at prior board books in the back in the supplemental information, it gives you the KPIs for each of these,
Each
you know,
of these exact
yeah,
priorities.
over time, not all of them every single month, but over the period of time, it'll show you some of them, and it gives you the names of, for instance, if Dr. Oman and, you know, some of her team are in charge, it lists that on that KPI that's in your board book.
And I understand that, but you do this plan every year, right? This is
That's
a-
just an annual report. Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, that's
right,
just
it's a
the,
report, but what I'd like
Uh-huh.
to see is the actual strategic plan. And you are talking about KPIs, and I will try to correlate some of those and
So yeah, maybe to explain it a little bit deeper. So, you know, we have our strategic goal, and tied to the strategic goal, we create priorities as a college. And then we have performance indicators that tie to that. And then we have primary
so I'd
managers.
be able to follow all of that all the way down.
Yeah, and it's all, and we report that every month in the board book, correct?
In one plan document.
It all ties back to those strategic goals. Yes.
Okay, any other?
I'm ready to move on.
Okay, let's, the last discussion item we have for this evening is on page 15, which is a follow-up on the final report from the HLC, which hopefully everybody's had a chance to review. I appreciate the summary that I guess Dr. Speary put together.
and
Oh, there's Dr. Speary.
I've got copies of, he's going to go through a PowerPoint here, copies of the PowerPoint for you.
Yeah.
I don't see it. Mary Martha, if you're still on, we'll get copies sent to you for this too.
Kyle can pick them up tomorrow if that's okay.
Yep, that'd be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what we're talking about is referencing the 60-page plus team report that was done by the evaluation team that met with the board and also met with employees and students while they were visiting in April. I think as we walk through this quickly, I think it will be helpful for you to remember what that process was and then understand what the process forward was that got us to this final approval. So remember that a team of employees at Butler for about 2.5 years worked on our what's called the assurance narrative, which involves very, very in-depth, extensive documentation of everything that's going on in the college. Then that was turned into our evaluation team in March of last spring. And that team of 5 trained professionals, experienced professionals, then studied that documentation for a month. I've done this kind of evaluation for about the last 20 years. And evaluators spend about individually about 40 hours preparing for the visit. Then you were part of the visit. And then after the visits, they, over a period of about 2 weeks, prepare the team report, which is then submitted to what's called the Institutional Action Council. That works out of Chicago. That's the institutional action council that would have looked at our team report, would have been 20 people from across the United States that are all trained professionals in academics. Also, the Institutional Action Council also includes several people that are from the corporate world also. So they met at July 18th, and they had read through, those 20 people had read through the team report that had been submitted, and they decided that they could reaffirm our 10-year accreditation for Butler, depending on the monitoring report that we will talk to you about in a few minutes. So the outcome of that is Butler, at the present time, we are designated as an open pathway school. That's really a privileged status with HLC. Colleges that are granted open pathway status are able to have more free self-determination of their initiatives and how they are working with strategic planning than the majority of colleges and universities currently are standard pathway. If you are a standard pathway school, you have to have a full visit at the 4th year and the 10th year. That's something that probably should be avoided, but it's something that is a pretty common expectation for most colleges currently. So it's very good that Butler has been designated as an open pathway school. So in terms of, and you may remember that there are 5 major criteria categories. And then amongst those 5 criteria categories, there are 18 core components. Amongst those 18 core components, Butler was identified as meeting all of those core components except criterion 2C, which is governance. That is very unusual, I will tell you, amongst colleges currently. It's very, very standard. And I will tell you that I expected that when we got our team report back, that we would probably have, I would guess, 3 core components that we would have concerns that we would have to address. We only have 1. So that's really excellent. It's not uncommon for even open pathway schools to have as many as 5 concerns from a team report. So Butler is in a very good place. But the outcome of it is HLC requires an interim monitoring report to address the concerns in the team report and show progress. And I will have to prepare that monitoring report and turn it in January of 2024. So we have a pretty short time frame to prepare this monitoring report. Depending on whether or not that monitoring report is accepted, because it will be reviewed by a team of evaluators. If that monitoring report is accepted, then everything's good to go. We are open pathway. Our mid-cycle review will be in 2026, 2027, and we will have clear 10-year accreditation. So our next full evaluation will be in 2032, 33. Okay, next slide. You can read this team conclusion. It is in the full team report. I included it in the summary document. It's a very positive statement about, and I think that the key phrase in this team conclusion is Butler Community College is a mature institution. That's not a statement that you will very frequently encounter in team reports. So it speaks very well about their assessment of the institution. Like I say, I would invite you to at least be sure to carefully read the summary, which is a collection of excerpts directly from the team report, or by all means, read the whole 62 page document. Okay, next slide. There is praise for the institution throughout the team report. There are several pages in the summary that you can read. I picked a few things out for this presentation. One thing that I thought we should call attention to is that the team said that they wanted to call attention to how positive an impact and reputation that the college enjoys. Also, that Butler does a very good job fostering a climate of respect among all students, faculty, staff, and administrators. Okay, the next page. The heart of all this is teaching and learning. And the thing I would call attention to in faculty is they said a diverse group of students confirmed that Butler faculty are very approachable and supportive of students, and they were very complimentary of the availability and helpfulness of faculty. But also they praised student services leadership for being very responsive in terms of the changing needs of students. And the next page. We had to do a monitoring report 4 years ago. It was very good to see that their assessment of our assessment process, they said, assessment of student learning is robust and drives course and program improvement institutionally. You will, honestly, you will not read that about virtually any institution in HLC. Assessment of student learning is still one of the biggest challenges in terms of accreditation. So it's very good that they had that assessment of us. And then their estimation of our planning and use of resources was very positive. You can read a couple of quotes there. Okay, the next page. There are in a team evaluation report, there are what rises to the level of suggestions. These are, well, Dr. Kroll referred to the fact that we are going to strategically follow the recommendations of the HLC evaluation team. This is the complete list of suggestions from the document. This is a very short list. Also, in terms of actual expectation by HLC, these are at the level of suggestions. They are things that HLC thinks it would be well for us to do, but these are not things that are actually that we are required to do, at least it would be very well for us to have done these things by the end of 4 years. But knowing Butler, we will be doing these things this year. And the one that I would be, I think that I should bring to your attention is 4A. When they recognized the fact that we had an old practice of earned credit versus awarded credit, they called it to our attention, and our student services working with academics changed our practice before the team had finished their report. So that actually ended up being a point of praise by the team, that the fact that we could be that agile, that we would change our practice immediately going into the summer session. So you can read through this short list of recommended suggestion improvements that we should be doing in the next year or so.
Well, and I'm going to insert in this as well that one of the suggestions for improvement was that essentially that we're doing more assessment than we need to, correct?
Yeah.
Or more
Yes.
in depth than we need to. We can change it a little bit so it's not quite as comprehensive, which usually it's the other way around. You need to beef this up and you need to get better at it. And what they're saying is that we do probably more than we need to. And so
Yeah, Butler has been doing pretty comprehensive student learning assessment since 2000. It is almost still very common that, institutions have to do monitoring reports about their assessment processes. And the recommendation of the evaluation team is that we do less assessment of student learning.
We all say that that's Phil's fault because Phil is like our assessment guru and he's the one that's
Well,
created. Yeah.
I'm kind of obsessed with it. So, okay. So now we get to the thing that has to be responded to. So the next. So the concern is 2C, which pertains to governance and particularly pertains to the board of trustees. I would invite you to read through these quotes from the team report that call attention to aspects of how the Board of Trustees operates that were concerns for the evaluation team. And I will say that that reading their response is very obviously tied to their study of board minutes, board videos, and their interview with the board. If you would recall, the evaluation team met in private with the board, and actually it was my experience, and I was in many of those meetings that day. I don't recall ever being asked to talk about the board by the evaluation team. So they were responding based on their study of minutes, videos, their interview with you, and also they read your board policies. So there's several quotes on that page. There's another page of quotes. And I would invite you to take the time to really read and think about these observations.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it a good time to ask a question? I just was curious to whether or not the HLC ever asked for, well, I don't know how else to say it. Was the Professional Association's evaluation of Kim Kroll included in HLC submittal?
That evaluation was done after they were here and after the assurance argument was.
Well, I don't care if it's coming after. I'm just asking, they are supposed to do it every couple of years, but there's been some disagreements between the association and the administration as to how private those contractual evaluations should be. So maybe they were late this time, but I think the evaluation could have been included. I'm just asking.
Wasn't
if it
requested.
was.
Well, it wasn't requested.
now-
Well, honestly, I would have to look at our evidence file, and if
My evaluations weren't the part of the evidence that's included is board evaluations.
Yeah, I think it should have been fair if you would have had yours included as well.
Well,
but I
they didn't
understand.
request it, Julie. It's
Well,
not part of the
course not.
evidence that they requested.
Is
I
that
get
based
it.
on all your
Hey,
experience with HLC evaluations to know what? the
We-
I'm
HLC
just
audit
saying,
team
it
needs?
seems like it's very weighted otherwise if they don't include both, but hey, you're the academic, I'm the business, so I get it.
I'm not academic. I trust the people that are academics
can-
know what their business
I
is.
Yeah.
understand.
I can tell you that we worked very hard to write to the core components and what the information that they were requesting, the examples of evidence that they, suggested. We submitted, almost
I'm not
6.
arguing with your submittal. I saw your submittal and I'm looking at your report. So we don't need to reiterate that. I just merely asked that question. So the answer is no. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. I would say in terms of our depth and breadth of documentation, they were extremely impressed by that because, we sort of like the assessment data, we gave as much information as they could possibly want. And one of their reactions was the fact that they could interview us in those 2 days based on documentation. It is very typical in those 2 days that much of what an evaluation team will do is ask for documentation. The documentation that they needed, they already had. So they didn't end up asking for virtually anything while they were here. So that was very, very striking. Okay, in the next slide. So a central statement, I think, in their response about 2C was this quote: "This circumstance begs the question embedded in 2C2, whether the board is functioning in a way that can continue to preserve and enhance the institution." So the action of the Institutional Action Council is they are asking for interim monitoring. IAC continues the accreditation of Butler County Community College, and they officially have to call us Butler County Community College because of another institution in HLC.
Does that mean
with-
we're gonna have to change our name again?
No,
It's still all unofficial.
no. Yeah,
Never
it,
changed.
yeah,
You
it's
wouldn't
our
know that
legal
was our
name.
official name.
Okay, with the next reaffirmation of accreditation in 2032, 33, in conjunction with this action, IAC required the following interim reporting. So an interim report due on, and this date has to be finalized
We do. There's a
with
discrepancy.
Chicago, but
Mhm.
it's either going to be in early January or late February, but it's a very short time frame. An interim report due on a date in early 2024 with evidence of a board vote affirming acceptance commitment to the tenets of 2C. This report should affirm that board members understand the limits of their roles and the appropriate role for the president and administration. So my observation is that this is something that the board has to work on. There can be assistance from the administration and the institution. And also, I think that we could arrange to have trainers or other people to have input. But this is something, work that has to be done by the board. And I'm sure it will require the board studying the tenets of 2C. So
Thanks, Janice.
yes.
She's trying to help.
The try was there.
Yeah.
Well, and as part of the work session again in August, we will have, we feel like it's important for Dr. Tom Bordenkircher, who's our HLC liaison, to join the board and provide perspective from HLC directly on suggestions for how to, to start to address this so that we can meet the requirements of the interim monitoring report.
Yeah, we're going to have to learn from Tom's perspective and the commission's perspective, what they expect as what their expectation of appropriate progress is.
Right.
I honestly don't know. I don't know what will be acceptable to them. I do know that if we would do a monitoring report and it was rejected, the whole situation will begin to change. It would be very possible, for instance, that we would have our open pathway status taken away. And that we would be thrown into a situation where we had to have a full visit in 4 years. And it would be very possible that we would have to have a monitoring visit in the next year or two. So I know that from working on the Institutional Action Council, that the hoped outcome of asking for a monitoring report is that the institution does a really thorough, effective monitoring report, and it's accepted, and then you're fine. And that's my experience is that that doesn't always happen. Hopefully it does happen, and hopefully very much it happens for us. But I also have experienced situations where it starts to set off a chain reaction that can stop at very points in the progression. So the board needs to address this, and I will certainly be working with you all in terms of creating the monitoring report. And And
Well, let's hope, Phil, that we can seriously develop a report that we can all agree on.
yeah,
Because I think that would be the number one goal.
Yeah.
Is having something that we can all agree on. And so far, there's a lot of things we haven't agreed on, but then we're all individuals.
yeah. One of the main observations that I get from the report is they would like to see the board work more effectively together.
What I find disheartening, and it's not funny, but HLC would be happy if we had the board from 3 years ago that was just a rubber stamp. While we're declining 50,000 credit hours and the board supports administration, amazing boardmanship. Whereas now we have a 4-3 split and three of us don't appreciate the direction of the college, and we're fighting for our vision of the college in our community. And they don't like the fact that we're not just going along to get along. I'm sorry they don't appreciate that, but I don't like the way my institution's going. I'm gonna speak my mind. I asked for 3.5 years for sports data. They don't like it. I make a call to the Forbes guy and say, hey, how much did it cost? So I stepped out of line by not following procedure and find out it cost $10,000 to find out where we stand in sports. A year goes by, we find out we're losing $1 million on football, neither here nor there, but that's my responsibility as trustee to find out what's happening with the money. They don't like my style, so they want to come at me and force me to sign an agreement on the wall that's poorly written, which I won't do. And if they're going to suspend our accreditation because we won't sign that poorly written document, I'll go to court and find out what's what. Or we could write a document that's agreeable to all in plain English that we can agree to. But Kansas statute, Board of Trustees is pretty simple. If you give me 1 second. Board of Trustees. They shall have custody and be responsible for the property of the community college and shall be responsible for the operation, management, and control of the college, period. Dr. Kroll was hired 10 years ago by another board. She doesn't get free reign to do whatever she wants until she retires, and the board has to go along with whatever administration says.
Yeah.
The new,
You stop. No, it's not.
It's appropriate for you to talk
I'm
about
criticizing
and
performance.
disparage me
I'm talking
publicly.
about the trustees in our community. We had a listening tour 4 years ago that was more of a talking tour. The college ignored us. I'm speaking, please. The college ignored us. I was irritated. I volunteered to run. I don't know what Julie did. Kim volunteered to run because we're not happy with how the college was treating us as constituents. So we came here. We have a requirement. If the board there's an election this fall. If the board switches in majority and we hire a new president, then what would the HLC say? Well, you don't have the goals now that you used to have, or would the minority then, would their opinions flip because the minority majority flipped? I understand they don't like some of the dissension we've had over the beginning of the years. It's gotten better. They say on the previous page, board is unwilling to work to find effective ways of interacting in public meetings. That's a bold-faced lie. We've done a lot of work to interact. We're doing much more Robert's rules. We passed Linda Jolly's thing she wanted the other day. You weren't here. We worked it out. I thought the language was good. We came to a consensus. That is not a true statement in any regards. So I'm happy to hear what Mr. Bordenkirchner has to say next month. I just don't appreciate the constant threat. We don't like the way you're doing it, you minority board members, so shape up or else. We're not the type of three people that are gonna do that. So if we can work together in a polite but business-like manner, I could see that. I just don't like the ominous threat.
One of the things I want to bring up, though, is not even about their concerns and so forth, but I take to heart that a third party came in, evaluated the institution with a tremendous amount of information, and they find us mature and strong. And despite the fact that maybe we have some disagreements in governance, they didn't really ding us on anything. So when we're in our meetings and we're talking about, oh, we're going to go broke, and it doesn't appear to be valid. It was never valid to me. I kept thinking we were doing our best, and I kept being proud of the staff and the people that we have. So I mean, I think as a group here, we should acknowledge that we have work to do, but we should also acknowledge the great work that the professional staff and our own director, Dr. Kroll and her direct reports have done to give us this chance for reaccreditation with just the one concern. They didn't find a lot of other things. In fact, they're saying we're exceeding some of the things that we're doing. So I think we need to focus on us for a little while here and make sure that it won't be me because I won't be here in 4 years when they reevaluate, but so that we give everybody a fair chance to be able to be proud of our institution and figure out the ways we are going to work together. It doesn't mean we always have to vote 7-0, but there's been a lot of things that haven't been professional. I think we're trying to do better with that among ourselves. We have to work together. We don't have to be best friends. And that's the way it is in a lot of situations when you're at work or anything else. Sometimes you work with people, you work with government officials or whoever. You need to work together. You just don't have to be friends. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be. I'm just saying it's not a criteria. So I think we should all reflect on this and see what part we have in it and try to make corrections.
I'd like to keep in mind as the board, we're in charge of the institution, not a group of people required to do what we're asked of every month by the administration. The board is kind of, I don't think it does its role properly in guiding the institution. We just kind of go along with what information was presented over the years. And how can we possibly say that we're heading in the right direction and we need to just keep on doing what's recommended to us because it's working out swimmingly? And if we question anything, we're immediately the bad guys.
I just want to point out, when I was in high school, I was first chair, first clarinet. And I got a B in band for the first time I'd ever had a B in band ever in my entire life, my senior year, because I talked too much. But the girl sitting next to me that I talked to, who talked back, mind you, got an A. And I'm still kind of salty about this, but my point being, if there's a dissenting 3 and we're getting a debate back from the board, what's frustrating to me is that this report feels like getting onto the dissenting minority as opposed to the other side too.
Yes.
It's just extremely frustrating because it takes 2 people to have an argument. That's all I was saying.
I think there are concerns on here that have nothing to do with the dissenting board. I mean, there's conduct. I mean, the issue that came up where members of this board tried to influence how classes are taught arising out of the issue at Rose Hill. That had nothing to do with the 4-3. That was one board member who took it upon themselves to insert themselves in a situation that they shouldn't have, according to HLC. So, I mean, there are things that we can work on that aren't all about getting along.
Okay, you opened that door.
Well, no, it's in the report.
No, I know, and and I'm gonna make this part of the report too. It's obviously you were talking about me, but I have to repeat something that I was told. And all I gotta say is this: we have a new superintendent in Rose Hill, and this will not happen here. And we have already talked. I want you to go down and talk with him. But here's the thing, we cannot claim academic freedom in this if we don't have academic freedom for both students and instructors. And that has always been my position. No other position. I'm not addressing Christian beliefs. I'm not addressing this belief or that belief or Muslims or Jewish or anything else. All I am saying is we must have equal academic freedom for all. And in my opinion, we do not. And that's based on my experience in Rose Hill. So with that, I'm going to end my comments. I hope I don't get a rebuttal from you, Forrest, because I only rebutted what you said.
Dr. Spree, thank you for.
Well, sure.
Yeah, you did a good job.
We'll have more discussions with you on this.
Yeah.
As we.
You're going to be here for the work session?
Yeah.
Good.
So the work session, if I get it right, the work session will include basically the Andover issue and HLC.
Yes, and we also have Kelly on the schedule
Okay,
to do
yeah,
advertising
okay.
as well.
The Andover issue.
Road.
The road.
The roads,
Construction.
Jenny McCall.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments
No.
on the HLC report?
Well, thank you.
Thanks,
Yes,
Bill.
thank you.
Good job.
With that, I think we are on to our supplemental information. Dr. Mohammed, anything?
Nothing today, we'll start next.
Okay, thank you much.
He's like,
Still on summer break.
Anything of note?
No, just
Yeah.
please note the thank you note from financial aid for the raises. They always acknowledge that and are appreciative, as well as lots of other people are. But they
you know, and
Send a
a
card,
question when we finally get done. I'm sorry, I just have a quick question. When we finally get the agreement with the professional association done, that will be retroactive, correct? Back to the same point as the other. Okay.
yeah, at the start of the contract year,
Great.
July
Well,
1.
Whatever
Yes. No.
whatever we did for.
It starts with their contract year. It'll start with July 1
Yeah.
or August 1st, sorry, with the professional employees. Yes.
Okay, we have I'll say brief, relatively speaking, exec session to get an update on the status of negotiations. There is language in the board book for that motion on page 175.
And we need to add to the folks that will be included in that, Alyssa Ehrlich, who's legal counsel.
Okay,
I think she's on or going to be on Zoom.
okay.
Okay,
One
Mr. Chair, I move that the board recess into executive session to discuss negotiations pursuant to the open meetings exceptions for said matters related to employer-employee negotiations, and that the board, President Kim Kroll, Bill Rickenbaugh, Shelley Stoltz, Dr. Tom Neville, Dr. Phil Sperry, and Kent Williams, and
Alyssa Ehrlich.
Alyssa Ehrlich be included. The open meeting will resume in the Dankert trustee room in approximately 45 minutes.
Within
45 minutes.
Within 45 minutes.
I would second.
Okay.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Good. Who's muted?
I don't know if she's still on phone.
There she
Yes.
is.
Okay. Okay, great. That's 7:00. We will take some time to move virtually and in real. For those that are here, we have nothing else on the agenda after this. So the plan would be that we'll adjourn the meeting when we come out of exec session. So I'll note the times in and out when we get done.
Thanks, everyone.
Sometimes I write that down, sometimes.
Would it be great if you could just do that?
There we go.
We good? Okay, we are back in open session. We had some technical difficulties with our breakout room, so we didn't end up starting our exec session until about 7:40 and out now at 8:16. So would love to hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Shearer.
Yes.
Trustee Winslow.
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly.
Yes.
Trustee Brungart.
Yes.
Trustee Good.
Yes.
Hey, great. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you, everybody.